Here we go on this Thursday afternoon. We are 365 Sports, and thank you very much. Craig's wearing the blue, Paul's wearing the black, kind of black and gray, and I have the red golf shirt on. We appreciate your time. 365 Sports every afternoon. We start at around 3 o'clock until around 5:30 or 6. And today, even though we get worn down with legal issues and legal stories, and this one kind of in a way that way about TV, college football, college sports, Cody Campbell and Save the Sports Act, and then there's also what the Big Ten and SEC did today. We'll get to that, and yes, an update on what is the latest involving Cincinnati suing Brendan Sorsby, who's now at Texas Tech, for leaving without paying back what was a part of the NIL agreement with them. And we'll get into that. Tech has really nothing to do with this other than the fact that Sorsby plays now at Texas Tech. So we have gone through so much with Big Ten and SEC. They both are the alphas, the alpha dogs when it comes to TV. They get the most money. Cody Campbell is Saving College Sports and his group that he put a lot of effort into marketing during the football season, been on this show. They're trying to get things kind of, I guess, in one basket and let everybody have a piece of it. And honestly, I don't know why the Big Ten or the SEC would want to share any of that without any kind of special clause involved. But Craig and Paul Catalina, the Big Ten and SEC, first thing I had to do was look up white paper. I thought that was printing paper. I literally did not know the definition, and I found out that it's an important proposal or document. And so let's get to that. Brandon, put it up on the screen, and we'll go from there. In fact, extraordinary was used by Ross Dellinger early on in this about the SEC and the Big Ten and what they're wanting to do when it comes to, sending a directional message to congressional leaders, lawmakers, this week taking aim at those arguing for the consolidation of media rights, specifically targeting Cody Campbell's Saving College Sports movement. What does all of this mean?
Well, to summarize, the big component, the most massive component of saving college sports is pooling the media rights, and each individual conference would no longer have their own media contract. So right now, the Big Ten is with Fox, CBS, and NBC. The Big 12 is with ESPN and Fox. The SEC and ACC are all in with ESPN. So, and then everybody else has similar things across the board, whether it's the CW or whatever, what have you, all across the board. What this means is the NCAA or whatever is the governing body of college sports would go and they would pool media rights. They would control scheduling a little bit more, so you got more cross-conference battles that were good and all these things, and it would, in Cody Campbell's estimation, raise the value of the contract overall and make more money for everybody. Now, the comparisons that the CSC uses, and I think the SEC and Big Ten are right here, like the NBA or certain things like that, are not necessarily apples to apples. However, it should not be shocking that the SEC and Big Ten, whose media rights deals are running away from everybody else's, don't want to stop and share. So it's really hard to kind of break down who's right and who's wrong in this. And ultimately, the best thing to do is find something that's a compromise that's good for all of college sports, even though it might not be a total win for saving college sports or a total win for the Super Two, as Craig calls them. I think that they do have some valid points, but the biggest thing is you can't completely trust them, because in no way would they want to do this, or really you would think should they want to do it, because it means that they could risk money, because there's no guarantee they would get near as much as they would before, even though Cody Campbell says they get more.
Yeah, just to be clear, I mean, this document here is a study. It's a study that was done by the SEC and the Big Ten to look into what all this might look like and what Cody Campbell's proposing and all those types of things. So this is their response to things like pooling TV rights and altering maybe schedules, making it more regional like it used to be, and those types of ideas that all seem like fun, great ideas to the average college sports fan out there, but are obviously not great ideas to Greg Sankey or to Tony Petitti or to a lot of the people that stand to benefit far greater from the way the current setup exists. And I think there's not really like a right or wrong here. I mean, I can look at it from the Big Ten and SEC's perspective and go, why should we care about Iowa State? Like, why? Why should Ohio State care about Iowa State? Why should Ohio State go, you know what, we're making 4 times as much money as those guys. Let's give them some of our money so they can be closer to us in competition. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? And then on the flip side of Cody Campbell, I think first and foremost, he's always going to, I think, be looking at this from a Texas Tech angle. So I think as a guy with that background, I mean, I think this probably all spawned from, yes, a love of college football in general or college sports and a fear for what it's becoming, but also I think I'm pretty sure that he's wanting to ensure that his school also has a place at whatever table. I think that's been shown by how much he's poured into himself, among others, into that Texas Tech program. I mean, they're trying to keep it at the most elite level possible, and the only way to take it to another level would be to decrease the amount of room between them and the SEC and the Big Ten. So I think, like, in a selfish but not like trying to be intentionally selfish way, this does also benefit Texas Tech as much as anybody. But he is fighting for the greater good, so to speak. And from that standpoint, like, hey, pat him on the back for that. Like, I think that's great. I think it's great to have somebody that's trying to speak for all the other schools that are seeing this gap widening or looking at the way things are going and not feeling so great about how deregionalized this has become and how weird and funky the schedules are now getting, and sort of just all the stuff that we've talked about daily for like 3 years now that are not as good as they could be. He's trying to help solve some of that. So, yeah, I don't think there's like Cody Campbell's wrong here. No, he's just trying to do what's best for his vision of college sports moving forward and how he thinks it's best served. And then the other side's going, why would we give away this massive advantage that we have and that we've earned, quite frankly? Whether that's from just being historically relevant and having these massive schools with massive alumni bases and massive TV ratings, or through going and winning championships. So, yeah, this document basically just shoots a bunch of holes through Cody Campbell's idea and says that it's not what he's making it out to be, that it's not like the NBA where there's 30 teams, and you're giving some to Amazon and some to NBC and some to ESPN. It's different when it's 100-plus teams and they're not all created equal, like Akron versus Ohio State, for example. So they shoot ideas in that amongst various other things, and that's what this basically outlines. It's like, no, this idea is not good. Here's why. And here's why this doesn't need to be proceeding any further than it already is.
I spoke with Cody Campbell on Saturday when I was on my way back from watching the Baylor game against whoever they played. And he, you know what he talked about most of the time in the conversations was K-State, Iowa State, Mississippi State, Minnesota, those kind of schools.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's guaranteed to be a part of the wagon when whatever they do next. And yeah, he is doing a lot, obviously, a huge amount of what Texas Tech has been able to do in the last 18 or 24 months. But he truly, and I like the guy. I don't see him as any guy. He's playing some politics here too. But I do think he is trying to do what's best for all of athletics. But then again, the SEC and the Big Ten go, why should we share stuff that we've been working so hard to get to in the first place?
And let me just be clear. I'm not, just in case you're reacting to what I said there.
No, I'm not.
I just think he's going to have his sole focus is going to be on Texas Tech when it boils down to it. But I do think that this does benefit Texas Tech as much as anybody, because they've already closed the gap as far as money that they've started to earn and are donated and all of that. But what's the big bridge they cannot cross without some help? It's the TV rights and the media rights. That's what's really the separator, and he can float them for a while. But, yeah, I think he looks around and he goes, but if it's just Texas Tech but everybody else falls to the wayside, then it's still screwed up.
What are you saving if you can't
so I
save
think
that?
he is saving he is attempting to save all of college sports in a roundabout way. I do think that ultimately, this is just spearheaded, but let's not get lost in the Texas Tech part of this, because that wasn't my intention there. But I think that's how people do view him, though. I think that people from Lansing, Michigan say this Cody can't. Oh, he's only worried about Texas Tech. He's trying to get a spot at the table, and that's kind of how he's portrayed unfairly at times. But yeah, I think this is wide-ranging and is as much about Cincinnati having a spot as it is about Texas Tech or it is about Memphis or whoever that's not in those couple of leagues. But, for example, one of the things from the paper says the proposal said that schools could add $7 billion in worth over the next decade by pooling rights. And the paper says the proposal not only fails to produce more revenue than the current conference structure, but also introduces a dangerously unworkable model and new risks to the college sports landscape. And I think they're speaking to like now having even less of a say in scheduling and just kind of throwing things for even more upheaval. And Cody even says that like this isn't you pass it and then all of a sudden you're going cha-ching, that it would take years to kind of like unspool and rewire everything to where you're seeing the benefit of it as well. So this isn't like a quick fix. It's more of a long-term vision, but their big counterpoint is like, but it's not what you're talking about. Like this isn't $7 billion in extra if we all come together. In fact, the SEC and Big Ten would stand to lose money to raise up other teams, and even then, it's still not as much money as you're talking about, according to their study.
Yeah. Now, Soki, you posed a very interesting statement and question. The SEC and Big Ten say, why should we have to give up something that we worked really hard for? Now, I think that we worked really hard for is a weird statement when it comes to college athletics. Cody Campbell's comparison to the NBA in college athletics is not completely apples to apples, because if you are the owner of the worst team in the NBA, you are only as good as your buy-in as an owner, how aggressive you're willing to get, how, are you going to hire the best general manager? Are you going to keep players? Are you going to be smart about who you draft and all those things?
Like the Minnesota Twins put less into what they do, even though it might be as much as they can do, as perhaps the LA Dodgers.
Yeah. And if you can't, if you can moneyball it to a certain point, but you do have to, the A's just tried to straight up moneyball it across the board. Mm-hmm. They didn't hybrid it at all. Well, the same can be said technically for Ohio State and Akron, except for the fact that in the NBA, whoever the worst team is every year, if it's the Sacramento Kings, they're still getting the same amount of television revenue to seed their business, mm-hmm. right? To make it profitable, as where Akron and Ohio State, or even just to be, on a closer playing field, Ohio State and Texas Tech. And so that's where it's not apples to apples. But when you say, if you're the two conferences, why should you do that? Well, you can either keep being completely greedy and completely only focused on you, and then see what happens. You're going to lose this money eventually, because if you blow up what is widely beloved in the structure that it is now, because you just don't want to share a little bit of money with everybody else to make sure that the playing field is level, and the playing field's not even level within those own leagues. That they acting like these 34 teams in these two leagues are the 34 best. They're not.
No,
they're not.
I really feel like,
and so they need to make a sacrifice so that college
Jerry
athletics.
Jones makes a sacrifice, and he has the richest, most valuable franchise in America with what he gets from the NFL.
So that the whole thing works.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's 32 of them, and they all stand to benefit greatly by making it all work. What Sankey and Petiti are saying is we don't stand to make more money through this. We stand to have a bigger problem, because there's not as much money as you're saying that there is. There's not $7 billion as a result of this. It also creates maybe various other issues as well. And so, they kind of poke holes through a lot of what he's trying to set up here. And I mean, his idea in general is a good idea, but then you also look at the Supreme Court decision, Georgia and Oklahoma back in the day, right?
83 or 82, whatever it was,
Yeah, it mentions that. It says, after the Supreme Court declared the NCAA's pooling of games violated antitrust law, schools formed the CFA to package games. The study said the arrangement produced less revenue, $43.6 million compared to $69.7 million under the NCAA package. So they were kind of looking at the historical part of this, and says that spurred Notre Dame to lead the group, followed by a steady exodus by the conferences, which led to the system that's in place today, in which all the leagues parcel out their own media rights And the study says decentralization also helps preserve the unique character of college sports and incredibly important brand attributes. So basically saying that broadcast agreement led to the Big 12, which didn't exist back then, but the SEC cutting its own deal, and the ACC cutting its own deal, and the Big 10 cutting its own deal, and they are all better served by being able to do that individually as opposed to when they were all consolidated together, and that allowed a Notre Dame to go fly free. And I honestly think, like, without trying to drill too much into what's right and what's wrong, because their study says something, and he also commissioned a study, and his study said something different. So how do we rectify the two differences where there's pretty big disagreements? I think, and this isn't like I'm telling you this is going to happen, but there's lots of little breadcrumbs that, like, I think these conferences might be for the birds, fellas. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to think that there wouldn't be this thing called the Big 10 where these 16, 18 teams reside. I guess, 18 now? Or the SEC for that matter. That's the league that I really see would have like a hard time letting go of that branding. So I don't know how that would work. But this idea of being able to solve all these solutions while also being in these leagues, I don't know that that's tenable with how much others are trying to separate themselves from each other. So I wonder, you hear all the talk about no conference championship games. There just seems to be lesser and lesser sort of,
if they weren't conferences, if they were divisions.
Right.
Where you played mostly the teams.
Well, that was kind of Cody Campbell's idea, isn't it? Like to have like the regional scheduling. But yeah, I think the conferences as we know them are just sort of in a evolution right now, and I don't know where that's leading.
Well, we just saw from 21 until 23 or so, 24, we saw the breakup of conferences, the adding and whatever. Those two were a part of that as well. I do think at some point we've seen conferences, basically the Pac-12 is still the Pac-12, but it's not, among others, and you just wonder if that's part of it. I think that's maybe not the next TV deal, but perhaps in that neighborhood. From Cody Campbell, what does this mean? The posture of these two, or who is this directed at? We know, because I'm about to tell you, but the posture of these two commissioners indicates they do not care about the fate of the other conferences or smaller schools, nor do they care about life-changing opportunity provided to women and to athletes of the Olympic sports. It seems they have chosen to disregard the directives of the president and the administration. Now, that's at the end. We can get into that, but he's trying to use that as a guilt trip.
Yeah, he is, and I mean that's the politically probably smart way to attack this. Is so you hate women? I mean, that's God. Am I watching CNN or Fox News right now?
Yeah.
Like that's exactly the kind of thing that would be done politically. So, I mean, as somebody who's just buddied up to Trump and has had meetings and is a part of his commissioners? I forget what that's called.
Yeah, the sports commission.
The sports commission.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taking a page out of the political playbook and basically saying, the SEC and the Big Ten hate women's sports, and whatever else he's alluding to there. So that's not the worst idea. That's the messy idea, though. That's the way to really get barbs going back and forth. So yeah, I think he has. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand why he's taken that approach. I also though think I look at the other side and I don't see where that really rings true. I think that they're just doing the logical thing of like, why are we helping you guys? And because it's for the greater good, as he says. And he points out, well, they don't care about the greater good. Now, I don't know if it's specifically about women. I think that's very politically motivated to include something so specific. But as far as the overall greater good of the health of the Big 12 or the ACC, no, I don't think they care about that. I don't think in any way they really care about that. So, I don't feel like Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti believe that it's in their job description as commissioners of the SEC or the Big Ten to save everybody else. So he's right about that.
Cody Campbell, I haven't read the whole thing. This is from earlier today. Can't for the life of me figure out why they released that right now. We're trying to get an amended SCORE Act passed in the House, if nothing else but to show some progress and momentum, which doesn't mean anything's going to happen or change, but with the momentum. And I talked to him, when I talked to him on Saturday, just to kind of see where he was. They've been quiet. He hasn't done much after that huge launch of a lot of marketing commercials. Hell, he was a part of sponsoring our show.
Saw his commercial every Saturday.
Yeah, a lot.
Games
but
every
he
Saturday.
Got quiet. I think it was because they were working on trying to get this thing, whether it was ever going to get anything done or not, the SCORE Act. And in fact, one attorney that I follow on Twitter goes, this is probably the last nail in the SCORE Act's coffin.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if they're trying to get it amended through and Cody Campbell's now supporting it, which he didn't before, which was what the point of the ads were, was the SCORE Act was bad, and then the SEC and Big Ten countered with, and I saw some this weekend when I was in Kansas City running about, hey, the SCORE Act is where it's at. Pass the SCORE Act. During the broadcast of the Kansas City, the Kansas Cincinnati game, it's the SCORE Act. I agree, dead. It was pretty much dead a couple months ago, and they're going to still try and push it through. All the other things that are going on in DC notwithstanding, it was probably even in the most perfect legislatively functional world, still not going to happen. It just wasn't. It's not even for the best time where we're passing 100 bills a month. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't going to happen. So I think overall they need to go back to the drawing board.
So why did they release this white paper today?
So they can kill it and they can start over.
Yeah,
that's
basically.
why.
I think so. And I saw Bob Thompson, who.
Yep.
I mean, were you the first guy to have him on, or did somebody? Okay,
Yep.
I mean, a lot of other people have him on now, and they're buddy Bob and everything. But yeah, I mean, we've known Bob now for going on a couple of years and respect his opinion.
Texas and OU left.
About 5, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been making the rounds, and is somebody that's leaned on, I think, throughout these types of conversations to try to shed some light. And he had a tweet in regards to Ross Dellinger and what he had put out there, and he said, a number of folks, me included, have been shooting holes in this wildly, overly optimistic theory since it was first floated. Broad consolidation of TV rights does not automatically result in the types of increases SCS, Saving College Sports, has been trumpeting. Never has, never will. Now, he did not shed further light. I'm sure he will at some point, but he clearly never thought that it was really all that manageable or workable. And, I mean, Ross even acknowledges in one of the tweets, like, it's not hard to figure out why the SEC or the Big Ten are doing this. It's like, we have all of the advantages. Why would we give them up just to make you all happy? And that's cold, but that's business. And if I was them, I wouldn't do it either. I mean, unless I'm looking at the other side of this fence and it's very green and very rosy and we're still having more cake and everybody else can have a little bit more as well. But I guess there's not that projection out there for them. They're looking at it as like, if anything, we're not making more. We're giving away more. We don't have to. This is being forced upon us. Why would we do this? So, like I said, I don't think there's like a right or wrong here. I think it depends. If you think that it's right that all this should be together, then you think the SEC and the Big Ten are wrong. But if you're looking at it from just a neutral, like, point of view of both sides, I totally understand both sides of it. I don't think you're either one of you are wrong in your approach here.
Yeah, let me ask you this. What should Mississippi State or
how do they stand to gain? Somebody like that who has an advantage solely because of where they are.
Yeah,
like they would
because
be crushed
they were born
by
into the family.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
how do those teams, universities, really feel? Is there any like, hey guys,
I think that schools like that should be a little bit nervous, especially letting TV control as many things as you do, because when it's all about dollar signs, because this is not, this is more of a pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered situation to me when it comes to the SEC and Big Ten. They should not have to change their whole business model because they were out in front of everybody. They should not have to do that. However, they need to be cognizant of the fact that that whole business model was built on something else, and if they wreck that, then in the future they're not going to make as much, and it's going to drop down. They could wind up going through the kind of ups and downs like the NHL went through for so long of like, everybody loves hockey. Oh, they can't get along. We strike for 18 months. Does people like hockey anymore? Let's get it back. You don't want that to happen to you. Overall, especially now where people can just jump to something so fast, I think that's the thing. And also, if you leave it up to the TV networks who are all about market size and views and all that, eventually they're going to get to a point and be like, nobody watches college football in Minneapolis or Starkville, Mississippi. So why don't you guys just get rid of them and do that? And then those teams will be like, hey, but we were here supporting you the whole time.
Won't happen, really.
Well,
you never know.
I think the big question mark that nobody really knows is all of these threats. I mean, because if people knew, they would call them on it. Like, we'll break away. Okay, do it. Do it. And see it. But I don't know that they know how successful it would be. I think they know they would be okay because all the people that tune in are still going to be tuning into SEC games. But there is that fear of, What about the casual? What about the Kansas State fan who's watching Alabama versus Oregon or whatever, who's suddenly like, you know what? F you guys. I'm not watching any of this crap because you just threw like Oregon State or Washington State fans. Now, if they turned away those people, would they be wildly affected by that, or would they still be okay? That's the thing that we don't know. They're threatening it every time anybody threatens them to give away any inch of grass that they already hold or any dollar that they already hold. And I think the other side's not sure, like, if we call them, we don't know, like, maybe they call our bluff and they're still totally fine, and if anything, they take more money. Like, that's the thing that nobody on either side, I think, really knows right now.
There's the possibility. I don't watch certain sports as much, or sometimes not at all, because I don't like the style of play or just don't watch as much. But their ratings, all the numbers are better than they've ever been before. And I'm like, I think, a pretty damn diehard core sports fan. So I don't know what would happen if all of a sudden there was 38 or 44 teams, but it didn't include,
K-State, Oklahoma State,
75 or 80 other schools. That's from today. We'll see how this continues. We'll see. Again, I'm going to reach back out to Cody Campbell. I appreciate him giving me time when he did on Saturday. But yeah, it looks like right now this is going to be another story. This is not a legal thing, but it is.
No, I don't look at this as the same thing as like has Darren Heitner popped in and commented on this?
I think he actually did.
I'm sure he did, actually.
I think he did.
No, I probably come across as like, I hate this dude. I don't. But the stories that typically involve him, those are the ones that you eye roll. You're like, oh, the 7th year of eligibility, great.
Yeah, the Sorsby, Cincinnati, which we're going to have Justin Williams on in a second.
That's interesting because that could get really interesting if they allow it to get really interesting, or they just quietly put this to the side. But that's different than the entire framework of the entire sport being fought over and possibly drastically changed one way. Like, this is a massive back and forth. It's not quite a tug of war yet, but it has all the signs of turning into that at some point, and this has great ramifications on the entire enterprise. So I think this is a much more interesting conversation than whether or not that dude's tooth was so bad that he deserves an 8th year of eligibility.
Somebody in the chat is saying that we should reach out to Brett Yormark because Conundrum hates the Big 12, and that's fine. He's an Iowa fan, and we love the fact you watch us and you give us feedback. But I have talked to him. And I have talked to others in the Big 12. He doesn't like the Cody Campbell stuff. He and Cody Campbell do not get along, and he's a Big 12 commissioner, and Cody Campbell's a part of one of the 16 teams in the conference. There's some friction there. So just to let you know, he has made it clear, maybe not so much publicly, but I know that for a fact is true.
When we talked to him, I guess it would have been at probably Big 12 Media Days, I guess.
Last time that we talked to him on the air, yes.
When we asked about Cody Campbell, he seemed to just kind of have a weird reaction, like a non-committal sort of yeah, we're going to talk, but it wasn't like, oh, I love his idea. It was the opposite of that.
Who does Brett Yormark want to be? Does he want to be Greg Sankey, or does he want to be this egalitarian, everybody has the same thing? I don't think that his goal, and I don't think that the conference presidents hired him to be egalitarian, ecumenical. I think they wanted him to, how do we become the SEC? So that's his goal, is to make the Big 12 as much like the SEC and Big 10 as he can. So if Cody Campbell, who is an enigma of a guy who is an oil billionaire who donates to the Republicans but supports communal rights to things in college athletics and all of these things, like, he's so confusing. If you're Brett Yormark, I would think I'd be like, I don't know what this guy's deal is.
I'm sure there's a lot they agree on. One, that he's good for the Big 12, Cody Campbell is, because of what he's been able to do to get Texas Tech to rise to where they are, and maybe consistently be able to do that,
but
too.
But that doesn't mean you agree on
broadcasting
rights.
We don't all agree on anything. Paul, I hate the Red Sox. I mean, that's all there is to it. But so the story about Cincinnati and Brent, and we'll keep up with this, of course, along the way, but the story about Cincinnati is suing and wants $1 million from their former star quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, who's now at Texas Tech. This has nothing to do with Tech. This is Cincinnati suing a former player because they feel like he
could have gone anywhere.
He owes them $1 million. Justin Williams had the story yesterday from theathletic.com, and he'll join us in just a moment. Let's kind of set this up before we'll take a break and get Justin to come back with us. So after Texas Tech beat Cincinnati over the weekend, here is a tweet. I don't know if I even follow Sorsby on Twitter, but this was something that I saw as this kind of developed yesterday and into the day. Here is a Brendan Sorsby tweet. And if you see the emoji, wreck 'em, and he's got, what is that like? Is that like having fun, bitterness, whatever that emoji is?
It's not bitterness.
Yeah, it's not bitterness.
Bitter, yeah. No,
What is that emoji? If you put your name,
it's just goofy, happy.
yeah.
So then this is our good friend Chad Brendel. Hold on just a second, Brandon. From BearcatJournal.com. We've had him on many, many times. Couple of things from him. This is Brendan, Chad Brendel, who covers Cincinnati when he saw the Brendan Sorsby tweet. The Denzel Washington gif. Now, then Chad was a part of WKRC in Cincinnati. You ever heard of that name? It's a TV station. Yeah. Huh?
I've heard of WKRP.
Yeah, but
not
this is the
WKRC.
TV station. It's Local 12 in Cincinnati. And Yanni, who's the reporter, had Chad on for this little 25-second comment from Brendel, Chad Brendel on Sorsby and this lawsuit.
I expect Cincinnati to win this litigation. I just don't see what leg they really have to stand on if there's a signed contract that calls for $1 million buyout to terminate that contract. I would think that he's going to have to pay it. If not, this is already a mess. All of it is already a mess. If the contracts aren't binding, what are we doing?
So that's Chad, and we will hear from Justin Williams on that. So I sent a text to him last night. I said, blank, what the hell's going on with this Sorsby stuff? It's silly. What's the main thing? Sorsby eventually just pays them or maybe settles to pay them less. He goes, I'm sure his lawyer will go after the antitrust issues. So there's a lot of that. Now, this is from Scott Springer. He's a veteran writer up in the Cincinnati area. I talked to Brendan Sorsby this morning, who did not comment on the buyout. His attorney confirmed to me they will defend the buyout pursuit in court. Cincinnati to enforce contractual agreement via lawsuit is filed. I'll be on the plane working for the rest of the day as I'm traveling. So that's from a guy that actually talked to Sorsby and got a note from the attorney that they would fight it. Of course they're going to fight it. That was what you would expect him to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's I understand if you're a Cincinnati fan how this is probably way more interesting because you're like, yeah, we want our $1 million. We go spend that on a pretty good player or two or three or whatever, and hey, that's the contract that you signed. So yeah, we want our money, pal. I mean, we were banking on you being our quarterback, and you're not. So I understand from their standpoint why they're pursuing this, and it's also got to set an example. I do need to make a correction from yesterday, and probably a few other times as well. But talking about Damon Williams and the contract that clearly was enforceable on Washington's part, and we're just talking about, well, why didn't everybody just grab the contract from Washington, or why doesn't Washington sell that bad boy to other schools and leagues? We need to make correct. It's not the Washington; it's the Big Ten template. Yeah. That's what's being used, is the Big Ten's template. So I just wanted to make that clear that it's not like Washington has the secret sauce recipe and nobody else does. The Big Ten actually put that template together. So I wanted to kind of just circle back on that. But yeah, you would think it's a contract. It was signed. That means it's going to go through. But what have we learned over the last 2 or 3 years is that we hear a lot about things being signed that actually have no merit to them whatsoever. So I don't know what he signed. I don't know how enforceable it is. That's for the lawyers to figure out, and that's clearly what they're doing right now. But yeah, you would think it's simple. 1 + 1 = 2. You sign this, it means this, and you pay this if you leave, and that's what you did. But yeah, they think otherwise over in the Sorsby camp. So any hopes that this was going to be a clean break is clearly not going to happen. It's just a matter of how messy does it get.
Yeah, I think, and Smoak, you sent a really good tweet summarizing all the things that have in fact happened and how they will maybe be predicted to work out in court, from Tim Adams, who covers UC, mostly baseball, but did a really good job of kind of breaking it down. What this seems like to me, and I can't wait to talk to Justin here in 5 minutes about it, is Brendan Sorsby decided, what if I don't pay this back?
I've got an extra $1 million.
Yeah. What if I don't? can I win this? And if I do, like, if I do have to pay it, then I knew I had to pay it anyway. But, like, if I'm...
Dude, he's in a win-win.
Yeah, it's not like...
I'm either making, I forget the figures because there's just so many numbers, but, like, I either make $5 million or I make $4 million.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But if I can try and get that $5 million back, then that'd be great. But if I don't, then I'm still making $4 million. I think I'm underselling it, actually. But, yeah, I think if you had the chance to go file a lawsuit and potentially get $1 million back, even if you already have pretty good money, I think you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And you maybe are not going to have quite $1 million because after lawyer fees, you're going to have like $800,000, but it's still $800,000 more than you had otherwise.
I will tell you that if this was a DeMond Williams Big Ten contract situation, it would probably be over by now very similarly.
Yeah.
So there's something in this contract that his attorneys think that voids that agreement.
Well,
the Seattle Times put that out. They put out the template back
Yeah.
during the DeMond Williams thing, and I just think it kind of went quiet because that got shut so quickly. That door just got slammed shut like 24 hours. Even as we talked about yesterday, Darren Heitner came like, all right, I'm here. It's about to get busy. And like an hour later, he's like, all right, everything's been solved. All parties are moving on. And it's like, okay, well, damn, that must be one hell of a contract. But, yeah, I believe the Seattle Times put that out there during that whole ordeal. So I don't know what Cincinnati used as their template or what. Maybe theirs is just fine, too, as we'll find out. Because this will move on. But,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
But maybe it's not, and that's what Sorsby's trying to figure out because he stands to make $1 million or so.
I asked this yesterday. Why did it, if he signed, which he did on January 4th, why did this take so long for the lawsuit? Well, there was probably a timeline that Sorsby had to pay the money. So they had to let that timeline lapse, and then all of a sudden you have the lawsuit. And Justin Williams, who's going to join us in just a moment, is the one who had the story. And now it's a lot of people are also reporting on it. I saw some that aren't paying attention that, Texas, it's nothing to do with Texas Tech. It has nothing to do with anything Texas Tech other than they have a quarterback who is being sued by his former team to pay back money that they think that they're owed.
Yeah, they don't owe the money.
No,
Brendan Sorsby owes the money.
It's an individual thing.
Yeah, Brendan Sorsby owes it. It just happens that Texas Tech is where he went.
Yeah.
If he had gone to Pittsburgh, it would still be the same thing. They're not going after Pittsburgh. They're going after Brendan Sorsby.
And here's another thing. Maybe it's a settlement. Maybe they end up halfway. I don't know. But I have no problem with Cincinnati if they feel like they are owed money and they have an agreement, the sign, the signature, and all of that, for them to do what they think is right. I don't think of them any less. I don't think if you're a Texas Tech fan, you should think of them as any less. You could probably be annoyed that your quarterback has to deal with this, but he's not going to be. It's his attorneys and the law firm. That is a Cincinnati law firm that is going to represent him.
And some of the questions y'all are asking, I mean, the information is out there. He had a 30-day deadline to pay the $1 million. He didn't do it. He notifies them that or his people notify Cincinnati and say, we're not paying you anything. And that's where now they turn around and they sue because there was a window. There was the agreement. Cincinnati said, okay, give us our money. Bring us our money. And then I guess perhaps Sorsby's lawyers or whoever's like, well, technically, we think we've got a little bit of a loophole here because under Ohio law, the buyout constitutes an unlawful penalty. That was the language that was used by Sorsby's agent. So at some point they caught that and I guess figured, okay, well, actually we can go the other way with this thing. We don't owe you anything. And so that's why this is all happening now. It wasn't like sour grapes and suddenly, oh, we're going to try to ruin spring ball for you. It was like the money is supposed to be here. It's not. What's going on? Okay, now we got to sue you. And they're saying, well, no, you have no case.
The value lost, that's also as a university representative is what they've called Sorsby. Obviously not an employee, but a representative. When we come back, Justin Williams will give us anything that's new and kind of put a bow around this, if we possibly can, on the Brendan Sorsby and the fact that the Cincinnati wants what they feel like is theirs based on the agreement for $1 million, based on his NIL agreement from his time with the Bearcats. This is 365 Sports. I want to make you feel better. I hope I can. It makes me feel better, and I can't wait to share it. And I have been the last few weeks with you. QC Kinetics in Dallas and Houston. QC Kinetics is a treatment that takes what's inside of your body and spins blood cells, stem cells, whatever they get I give my blood. I've done this 4 times. They put it back in my waistline. And my hip issue that I've had, I can't tell you how long, since around COVID, is gone. It's not a soreness. It's not an ache. It's not that prevents me from, even when I'm playing golf, if I'm trying to line up a putt, I used to not be able to even get down and crouch behind the ball and look at maybe some kind of break between where I was going to putt and where the hole is. QC Kinetics medical professionals, regenerative treatments, taking what real science from inside of your body, treatments that take the tiniest, most powerful healing tools that in your body, not something from somewhere else, concentrate them right where you need the relief, whether it's in your elbows, your ankles, your knees, or even your wrist and back. And in my case, also in my hip. The sooner you start the treatment, the sooner it is. I had gotten so many different steroid injections in my back to try to help alleviate whatever was like crunchy on the lower part of my spine that would create some of that issue with my hip. And it's working. In fact, it's worked. Started the first treatment in September, had a treatment last week. It feels great. Sometimes now when somebody asks me about, hey, how's your hip doing, that I forget that it was even an issue, where that was always an everyday deal and affected me constantly. So it's affecting your golf game or just getting out of bed or anything else that you do. QC Kinetics, the number's below right at the bottom of the screen, 972-972-8610 and 713-913-5285. It's QCkinetics.com.
Hemi is back, and it's Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $10,000 off or 0% financing, plus the best truck warranty in America at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by, let's be friends.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a T-fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
Justin Williams is a great rider, and he joins us now on the Brendan Sorsby, Cincinnati, the $1 million in Cincinnati wanting to recoup that money. Justin, thank you very much for your time. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Anything changed since you had this story yesterday that's relevant?
No, I think it's just kind of progressing here. We're in the early stages still. Sorsby has representation, some local representation here in Cincinnati that's going to represent him that, have kind of been brought on board. But no, we're still early stages. I think the representation has 60 days to respond to the complaint that was filed yesterday. But this has been something that's been bubbling for a few weeks now. I wrote about, I think, end of last month or maybe early February, just the fact that this buyout existed. And so this is something that has been on Cincinnati's radar. It's been on Sorsby and his team's radar. And now we're kind of just getting the next step here with the legal lawsuit.
Do you have any idea what his argument is going to be that he doesn't have to pay this buyout if it's in a signed contract? Is there something in there that Cincinnati could have violated or an out clause, something? Because it seems to me he just is taking his chances with not paying it and see if he wins.
Yeah, I think what we're going to get, and we'll see, but based on the statements that Sorsby's representatives have put out, is this is going to go back to the whole broader argument of college athletes not being employees, and so therefore these contracts not being traditional employment contracts. I think the statement from both Sorsby's agent and his legal representatives have referenced that this would be against Ohio law. I'm assuming, based on some previous reporting and some of these previous cases, because again, the revenue sharing contracts or NIL contracts, they're not employment contracts because these athletes aren't employees. And so I'm not smart enough to totally understand the differences here, but I think when you get into the weeds of, are they independent contractors? And then if you're getting a buyout, are you trying to pull back wages that they would have earned? I think that's where you get into some questions of, is that going to be legally binding? Is that going to hold up under legal scrutiny in a court of law? That might matter on how it's argued. That might matter on the judge that it goes in front of. But I think with all these cases, whether it was Darian Mensah at Duke or some of these other, the DeMond Williams at Washington thing, the question that a lot of people in the industry have is, if these contracts go before a judge, are put to trial, will they hold up legally? And this is just another example of that. Now, whether we get to see that play out or whether it gets resolved and settled the way some of the other ones have, we'll have to wait and see.
Justin, are you like the hundreds of college football media members that all wish we had gotten some sort of law degree covering this sport years and years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably pay better, right?
That's for sure, yeah.
There's no billable hours here for me with The Athletic. It's, I was talking to my editor recently about, I do feel like I talk to lawyers more than coaches or athletes a lot of the time now, which is, that's not why I got into it. I'm sure that's not why people are sports fans, because they want to hear about all these legal cases. But it's just, it never fails right now that week after week there's some kind of new lawsuit, whether it's a player suing the NCAA, whether it's a school suing a player or something like that. Like, this just has become a continuing thing, and it's going to be a continuing thing in college sports until there's kind of some reform that gets figured out.
Yep, it just comes with the territory. You got to take that along with all the reasons why you fell in love with it in the first place. So you mentioned DeMond Williams, and I was going to ask you about that. So the Big Ten had like this template, right, that they used and dispersed to the schools that looked pretty ironclad, because that story came and went like within less than 24 hours. Like, Darren Heitner was getting hired, and all of a sudden he's on Twitter saying like, all right, this thing's over, we're all moving on, everybody's happy. Any idea of like why that seemed to be so ironclad, but it's not, I guess, as applicable maybe in this instance as well?
Yeah, part of the thing with the DeMond Williams was, like, he had literally, as I understand it, signed that new deal with Washington like days before he, said he was going to go on the portal. I think that probably had some kind of an impact on it. And then same thing if you go to Darian Mensah, I don't think there was technically a buyout in that, and that's why they had to kind of, Duke was suing for damages. Here with Brendan Sorsby, what separates this isn't Cincinnati trying to hold on to Sorsby. He's already at Texas Tech. He's signed. There hasn't been any kind of restriction of movement. The thing here was that they, from Cincinnati's perspective, they signed him to a multi-season rev share deal with the university, and in that contract, which they put in the lawsuit complaint, it says that if he were to leave and transfer to another university before the end of the term, which was December 15th, 2026, he would owe $1 million in liquidated damages. If he went to the NFL, there wasn't a buyout. It was just transferring to another school. This was something that in the lawsuit Cincinnati claims Sorsby signed off on, his agent was aware of. and now they're kind of going through this lawsuit as a way to get back that money. So it is a little bit different than some of the other past cases, because they're not trying to restrict them, but also because they feel like it's pretty kind of black and white. They're not asking for extra damages in the lawsuit. They're just asking for the $1 million. But obviously, Sorsby's team and his representatives feel like they have a case against that, because they've made it pretty clear they don't have any intention of paying that buyout.
So when I heard about the law firm and I was reading that part of it, I'm like, okay, where are they going to be from? And it has nothing to do with Tech other than Sorsby's now playing there. And it's it's a huge law firm out of Cincinnati. Does that mean anything at all, Justin?
Again, I'm not a legal expert. To talk about Texas Tech first, you're right. Texas Tech isn't even, they're kind of referenced in the lawsuit, but they're not named or identified specifically. And I don't think this really has anything to do with Texas Tech. My previous reporting, I reported that Tech was aware of the buyout. They kind of did everything they had to do in terms of counting it towards the cap with the CSC and all that kind of stuff. So while him going to Texas Tech is part of this story, I don't really think it has anything to do with Texas Tech. In terms of the law firm, as I understand it, the lawyers have to be, cleared or eligible to practice law in this courthouse, which is in Cincinnati. It's a federal district courthouse, but it's in Cincinnati. And so they have to be, accredited lawyers in the state of Ohio to be able to practice in that courthouse. And that's why you kind of see a local representation at least being a part of this early on.
Justin Williams with us on 365 Sports.
Justin, do you think this stings the athletic department in the short term or long term at all, or this is eventually this might not go as long as we think?
Yeah, all these other situations they've gotten resolved, right? Relatively quickly, settlement, some kind of situation like that. Obviously, again, what's different here is like in Darian Mensah, he was trying to transfer and go to another school. That's not happening here. Sorsby's already gone. He's already in place. There's not kind of any question about his eligibility with Texas Tech. So there isn't necessarily that same time crunch. I don't think either party, Cincinnati or Sorsby, wants this to drag on for months or into workouts or anything like that. But again, neither side has kind of given the indication that they just want to settle or have this resolved. Both sides seem pretty clear that they believe, Cincinnati believes that it's, has a case for this $1 million buyout. Sorsby's team believes that it doesn't have to pay it. I do wonder, Cincinnati, I think the fan base has gotten behind this, that they support Cincinnati making this lawsuit because, hey, our school is trying to enforce the contracts that it signs. In the broader industry, I bet there's a lot of schools and administrators at schools that are probably, if not rooting for Cincinnati, at least interested to see how this plays out. And then I think there's a lot of probably people, whether it's on the player side or on a legal side, that are maybe supporting Brendan Sorsby and hoping he kind of goes through with this to see where it goes. But I do wonder if a couple weeks go by, lawyers talk, maybe cooler heads prevail if they don't come to the table and try to negotiate something, as opposed to pushing this through a years long court battle with a trial and all of that.
Hey, I don't care how much he got from Tech, whatever the number is, we see numbers. Having to write a check for about $1 million, I don't care how much money you have, that's a lot of money, or $500,000. That's a lot of money. He's going to fight, and his attorney's going to fight for him as much as they can. Please tell me that I saw somebody mention this when it gets on Twitter, X, whatever it's called. When did they serve him? Do you know when they served him his papers?
Are you referencing if they served him at the basketball game? I do not believe that's true. I actually don't even know that he's been officially served yet. Again, not a legal expert. Yeah. I don't know how that works. But no, I think it was just an odd timing coincidence that Cincinnati played at Texas Tech. What was that, Tuesday night? And Sorsby was courtside. By the way, I saw he kind of hugged and talked to some Cincinnati basketball players. He gave an interview, I think, to the Cincinnati Enquirer before the lawsuit came out, that he was very appreciative and really enjoyed his time at Cincinnati. So I don't think there was a situation in the movies where a guy comes up to him sitting courtside and says, "Hey, are you Brandon Sorsby?" and pulls out the manila envelope. I don't think that happened. I think it was just kind of an interesting coincidence of timing.
Well, process servers don't really get paid that much unless they work for individual law firms, in which case they have a lot of other jobs inside of that. So if I'm just, a process server this is the gig economy, right, Justin? I'm not going to pay $20 or more for a ticket just so I can have drama. I'll just go someplace I know where he's going to be for free.
That's probably the way this goes. I think you're right. But again, in like the made-for-TV movie, it's definitely like an usher or someone working the drinks situation, and then they pull out that summons and hand it to him.
Yeah. Hey, good job with the original story and also following it as you did even before that. Great to have you on, Justin. Keep up the great work with theathletic.com. Thank you.
Smoky, fellas, I appreciate you.
Hey, too. Justin Williams with us on the story of Brendan Sorsby. Yeah, there was, what's the guy's name? In fact, his last, Banana Market Burner.
Oh,
so know, he goes, they dead-ass served Buddy his papers at the UC Tech game. Rare John Cunningham W.
No, I wouldn't think that's true. You watched The Lincoln Lawyer, correct?
A little bit. I haven't seen season whatever it is.
4. It's very good. It's actually my favorite season. But there's a character on that show, Cisco. He's the big guy.
Yeah.
And he's a guy with this real raspy voice.
Yep.
He's the one who goes and process serves, but he doesn't there's no drama to it other than he's just this big muscle-bound biker guy that's like, here, you're getting
sued. He's kind of a private investigator
So he has that's what his job is to investigate things, and then, hey, we go serve this guy. You're the best to do it because people are going to go, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that example is example number 1,200,075 of why you can't trust anything on Twitter at first glance. Like it's 50-50, is it true or not? But it does make me think of the Jason Sudeikis, Olivia Wilde situation from a few years ago when she's on stage for her movie and she's talking to reporters or whoever was in the audience, and all of a sudden a guy walks up and hands her something while she's standing on stage, and it's divorce papers or whatever it was. Was that divorce papers, I think, was what she was served with? Yeah, right there in the middle of this big to-do with a spotlight on her and everything, and that's kind of in that same vein, but that actually happened. This apparently did not, and thankfully...
That also happened in Hollywood.
Yeah, that was Hollywood,
where someone who is probably a struggling actor that has taken a side job as a process server goes, you mean I could get this close to Olivia Wilde when she directed her first movie? Well, like maybe she'll see, like, this kid's got something.
Yeah, but I mean, Justin did a great job there of kind of explaining, and as he sort of unwound some of the questions, it just like, duh, why didn't I think that otherwise? But that's why you have a guy like that on, is to make it clear and make sense. So when I brought up the Big Ten's template that they use, Damon Williams had signed that just recently versus, I know that, but I do need to have it explained sometimes to make me realize that I know that. So, yeah, that's clearly what the difference is there, but also with Darian Mensah. So I'm glad that he could kind of unlock that part in my brain, and hopefully for other people who are maybe struggling to figure out, like, why was this enforceable and this wasn't? Well, because of the timing and everything like that. But, yeah, this has nothing to do with Texas Tech. This is just background to them, and I'm sure all they hope is that this just doesn't turn into something. But even if it does, I mean, the season doesn't start for 7 months, so it's not like
they play each other, don't they?
I believe so, yeah. And so this will hopefully get taken care of and not become too much of a messier incident. But I can understand fighting over $1 million, even if you already have few $1 million. And I can understand from Cincinnati's point of view of why they want that money back, because they don't want people to just willy-nilly be able to pick up and break a contract if they feel like a contract's being broken. So it's easy to see where both sides are coming from here.
They play in Cincinnati. That'll be interesting. A long way between now and also then. One of the things, Sam Ehrlich put this out there, the one thing that he said that he was very interested in was how Cincinnati, and I mentioned this earlier, based Sorsby's value as a university representative, and the reason that might mean something, not as a football player, in case then something came back to bite him in the butt, pay for play allegations.
Well, and this is... Man, they're running a long way around to not say employee.
Yeah,
they're all trying to do everything
they
can.
Everything they can, and I don't know. Look, Smokey, we've all been 1099s at different points in our life. I think you are. Like, that's kind of like what you are. Here's the thing: I'm a contract. What? It's a second word in that.
Laborer.
Employee.
Yeah.
So, like, even if I'm
when I'm doing landscaping, I'm a contract laborer.
If somebody gives me money to perform a service, I am an employee, at least for a temporary amount of time, whatever time it takes to complete said service. It is funny to me that 25 years ago, student athletes were ready to unionize. Actually, and then 15 years ago and then 10, they're ready to unionize and say, let's talk about all this. And the NCAA said, no. And then it was almost they were warning them of like, okay, well, eventually we're not going to want to unionize. And then that's where we are now, where they're all like, hey, that collective bargaining thing was a pretty damn good idea. And now the athletes are like, missed your chance.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that they think it's a good idea anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's some that do, but I think there's plenty that clearly don't. But now the athletes have no incentive whatsoever. They're making way more than they would make under a collective bargaining agreement. So,
Yeah, no question about it. And so now we go from that story and some college football news and all of that with the Big Ten, SEC, and everyone else to the NFL Combine is going on in Indianapolis. And the NFL Draft, of course, means that's a couple of months away. We have our next step, Rick Saratella. He is the founder of allaccessfootball.com, looking at what the stories are coming out of Indianapolis, and also we will break down some of the prospects, positions, and more. He's next, and this is 365 Sports. Don Chibador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Went in there, and I've done this the last couple of weekends. Went in there to grab 5 or 6 different Churchill-length cigars for me to have to play a round of golf on Sunday. And my favorites, Romeo and Julieta, Rocky Patel, Ashton, Macanudo, and even La Fontana. And they have Cohiba, and they have Padron. Those were a little bit harsh for me, but they sure have those great brands, the great brands around the world inside their humidor. They also have those for bad days, the gummies, for when you have chronic pain. I mentioned the QC Kinetics. There were times I thought about taking a gummy like that because I never did, but it will help you out. I know from others who have told me that it works. They have fresh ground coffee beans, or you can get the big bag yourself that are the coffee beans you can grind when you get home. It's Don Chimodor and Coffee Beans, Joshua, Cheyenne, the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels, drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off, or a new Laramie Crew Cab with 3.9% plus $15,000 off MSRP. Shop Allen Samuels in Waco.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
And NFL Combine continues. They measure everything. And there was the concern about what was Reuben Bain and his arm length and others. In fact, even Cassius Howell. And his arm length was not what most people want as a specific. I like to see, can they play football? Not everybody does, but can they play football? Those guys were pretty good. Doesn't always translate to the next level. Rick Ciratello joins us. He's the founder of allaccessfootball.com on the NFL Combine and also the lead up between now and the NFL Draft. And Rick, thank you very much for your time. In your opinion, what's most important during the week of the Combine? Are the measurables? Is it the interviews with teams? Is it the 40 position drills? What is to you most important?
Well, thanks for having me, Paul. I think what's most important is what we don't see and that's the medical reports. Medical reports and team interviews. Those are the two biggest things that teams want to get done while they're out here in Indianapolis. The size, the testing, we kind of had a feel for that coming into the Combine anyway. We already knew that was going to be Reuben Bain's arm length. Now the mass media is finding out and making a big deal about it. But to me, I think the medical and the team interviews are the two biggest takeaways that NFL teams want from Indianapolis.
Rick, this is a barren quarterback draft after the first one. And I don't want to knock Ty Simpson. He might be very good as well and might wind up being a first rounder. But if you were a team that wanted a quarterback this year, you know, when you started out the year saying, like, we're probably going to need a quarterback in 2026, how do you proceed with this draft if you're not, say, the Raiders?
Yeah, well, for whatever it's worth, the buzz here in Indianapolis is Ty Simpson is the consensus number 2 quarterback, and he's going to go a lot higher than people might anticipate. For whatever it's worth, Garrett Nussmeier is my number 2 rated quarterback, and to me, that's how I would be going about the process, is taking a quarterback that I can probably have on day 2, that's not going to be under the limelight and have the pressure of being a first-round quarterback and starting immediately, and also is the son of an NFL offensive coordinator, a multiple starter at the SEC, a player that played injured this past year with a patella and a torso injury, and you saw him down at the Senior Bowl remind us that, hey, guys, you were talking about me as a first-round pick for a reason. So to me, Garrett Nussmeier is a guy that I would want to draft and develop and see what I have, rather than risking a first-round pick on a guy like a Ty Simpson, rather than paying $30 to $40 million annually to a guy like Malik Willis, rather than flipping a day 2 pick for a guy like Anthony Richardson. To me, Garrett Nussmeier, I think, could be a diamond in the rough here.
What are your thoughts on the Texas Tech contingent? And I use contingent because there's a lot of those guys in Indy right now. But, you know, David Bailey, Lee Hunter, the D-line getting some shine here early on. And then others will follow along as well. But kind of how do you break down that pack of Red Raiders and who intrigues you the most? And what are you looking to see from those guys this week?
Well, I think the Jets dealing off Jermaine Johnson today paved the way for David Bailey to become the number 2 overall pick. And I think that's purely out of the fact that he's the best pure pass rusher in this year's NFL draft class. And you could project Arvell Reese and say, hey, he might be a guy. And, you know, you guys alluded to Reuben Bain's arm length. I don't think that sustains at the National Football League living on the edge full time. So in terms of a pure pass rusher, I think David Bailey has kind of elevated himself to the top of the class here. His counterpart, Romello Height, more of a finesse guy, I thought, speed and finesse. But then down at the Senior Bowl, he had put on some weight. He was flashing the bull rush. He showed some knockback, moving offensive linemen off their mark. So I think Romello Height is going to be a tremendous day two value in terms of being a situational pass rusher. And then Lee Hunter, to me, pound for pound, is the best defensive tackle in this year's draft class. I have him somewhere in my top 10, top 20 overall. He's been dubbed a two-down run stuffer, but I think he's going to emerge and develop into a three-down player. And I loved his podium interview. This guy oozes confidence. He knows he's going to do it. He's going to take your lunch money, and he's going to tell you about it. And I think, as time goes on and he develops to use his hand combat and develop more of a unique pass rush, I think Lee Hunter is a guy that's just going to keep ascending and really make a big mark in the National Football League.
Cassius Howell had his measurables today, and they were very similar to Bain. Is Bain thought of more as a defensive end and Howell more as an edge outside linebacker? How will that translate for him?
I'd like to see Ruben Bain kick inside and play three technique. We saw a little bit of that in the national championship. Now, he's been very adamant about playing the edge. It's not something that he was willing to do during his time in Miami. Mario Cristobal had asked him to kick inside, and Bain didn't want to do it. But then the national championship came, and we saw that. And we saw him use his hands and that strength and that power and that get off. And to me, that's going to be his best fit. I think he's about 285 pounds. Well, let's just pack on some weight, kick him inside, have him play the three technique. I think that'll extend his NFL career quite some time. That's how I would employ Ruben Bain. Cassius Howell, he's going to have to play 34 standing up outside linebacker. But again, when you're talking about going up against the Lane Johnsons of the world and guys with 35-inch arms, I mean, they're just going to jab you and keep you at bay. So I think they're going to have to really get creative. And, Cassius Howell does have some bend now, right? He can get around that edge. So he does have that going for him. But it's just, physical limitations is what we call them in the scouting community. It's a real thing. Teams put a lot of stock and emphasis into this. And I think Cassius Howell, as a result, probably is going to slide a little bit.
The Cowboys have two picks, 12 and 20. They need linebackers, defensive ends, defensive backs. And you could make an argument that if somebody like Jeremiah Love fell to them, like they might entertain that, even though they just signed Javonte Williams to a 3-year deal. Who do you think are the best prospects on the defensive side of the ball that will fall to them in those spots?
Well, I think linebacker is a position I would probably wait on personally, because you can come back around in the second and still get a plug-and-play starter, in my opinion. This is as loaded of a linebacker class that I can recall. But I think T.J. Parker out of Clemson on the edge is a guy that would be a good fit for Dallas. You talk about size, you talk about production, you talk about pedigree, you talk about being able to get off the edge. And I think you saw him down at the Senior Bowl really win the majority of his one-on-one reps, showing that pass rushing attack, the arsenal there that could potentially develop into a double-digit sack guy over the course of time. So at the edge, I'd probably be looking at a guy like T.J. Parker. If you did want to go linebacker, I mean, you could have your pick of the litter, really, because Anthony Hill is a tremendous talent out of Texas, maybe a little bit too high for some people's liking that stage of the first-round equation, but he would be in the mix there. And then cornerbacks is a tough one, because Mansour Delane is going to be off the board, and I think you might see teams kind of wait at the cornerback position. But if I had to choose one for Dallas at that spot, to me, the most polished product after Delane is Avian Terrell out of Clemson, 6 foot, 180 pounds, can play inside, can play outside, has started multiple years at Clemson, brings NFL bloodline. So Avian Terrell, I think, would be a guy that I would probably target.
Where do you see a guy, Michael Trick, tight end of Baylor? Where do you see him fall? Eli Stowers is one of the big tight end prospects, and there are others. Kind of how do you view that position, and where does Trick fit in big picture in your mind?
Yeah, I got Trick rated, probably as my number 3 or 4 tight end. I think he's going to be more a passing threat at the next level. 6'3.5", 246 pounds. I have him right behind Max Clear out of Ohio State, who transferred from Purdue this past year, 6'4", 240, can play more inline, but also help out in the passing game. And then Eli Stowers, I had a chance to scout down in training camp, former quarterback, so he's still developing as a blocker. He did get better in that category this past season. He's 6'3.5", 235 pounds, not afraid to cross the middle, and very, very high character. I was talking to the coaching staff down there, and he got a boatload of NIL money, said it never changed the man. He still came to work, same guy every single day, put his head down, kept working. So that's kind of how I see the pecking order. I will say keep an eye on Marlon Klein from Michigan, because this guy has a chance to really blaze a fast 40-yard dash, and at 6'5", 250 pounds, there's the potential that he could run in the sub 4.5 range, and if he does, Marlon Klein is going to be a hot name after the combine.
How much? I mean, you mentioned Stowers making a boatload of money. A lot of these guys are making big money. They're also sticking around longer. How have you seen that sort of change maybe the way these guys are coming into the NFL? Is there a noticeable difference that they're making money but also maybe developing more, or is it not something that's really all that substantial to notice?
Yeah, I think you're getting more polished players because they're going in school. They're going back to school. They're staying in school longer. They're getting more seasoning. They're getting more coaching. And the fact that these guys are getting handed millions of dollars before they come to the pro level, it kind of eliminates some of that risk. Because one of those conversations in the war room, talking to some of the NFL scouts here, is what's going to happen when we hand this guy a sack of cash? How's he going to respond? How is he going to act? Well, we kind of have some of that now because these guys are making $4, $5, $6, $7 million before they come to the NFL. So I think it's kind of limiting the risk. I think you're also getting more polished players as they transition from college to the pros.
Jamad McCoy from Tennessee, who did not play last year, whose last game was against Ohio State at the end of 24, and he went against Jermaine Williams and did very well against him. He's got size and more. He said he's cleared, he's healthy, but did not play. He seems to have first-round talent. What do pro teams think about him?
I think I'm starting to question his competitiveness. Here's a guy who was cleared at the end of the season by Tennessee to play if he wanted to. He chose not to. He received an invitation to the Senior Bowl. He opted not to go down to Mobile. He said here at the podium that he's physically and medically able to do everything, but he's now going to wait until his pro day. And so I'm sitting here saying to myself, does the guy actually want to compete? Like, what are we doing here? We haven't seen you in several years. You're 5'10.5". You're probably not going to be viewed as a boundary cornerback. So I think there's a lot of things working against Jamad McCoy in his draft stock currently. And I'm kind of scratching my head as to why he doesn't want to compete and perform and show the NFL scouts what he's all about. So that's kind of how I feel about Jamad McCoy.
Could Caleb Downs go anywhere from 2 to 12 in this draft?
I mean, if you're asking me, I think so. I think he's the best player in this year's draft. I don't think he'll go as high as 2 just because that trade with the Jets today, I think, is going to open the door for edge rusher at 2. But I think number 5 to the New York Giants is a real possibility. If you look at John Harbaugh, having Kyle Hamilton, having his Ed Reed safety, Caleb Downs would make a lot of sense to me. So I think he could go anywhere in that top 10. And if he slides past that top 5, boy, NFL is making a big mistake. And they overthought Kyle Hamilton. I hate to see him do it again on Caleb Downs.
They certainly did. I think if this was a rank the best players and that's who you get, regardless of who you wanted, Caleb Downs would be the first guy you take, or it would be assigned, because all-around football player, that's just something I think also it's hard, even for draft experts like yourself, Rick, to put into words to explain to like the general populace of like, look, don't get lost in the weeds on that this guy's a safety or whatever. All-around football player, there's nothing he really can't do, right?
That's right. There's very few weaknesses. He was asked about what can he get better at. He said, obviously Every defensive back can get better in pass coverage. I agree with that. He's a very solid open field tackler, but he said he'd like to improve that skill set. But when you talk about that, can play high, can play low, can play in the box, can play center field, very well-rounded game. Has helped the Crimson Tide win a national championship, play a key role for Ohio State winning the national championship. That's a winning pedigree, high character, very smart, very cerebral. First one in the film room, always studying. I mean, there's a lot to like with Caleb Downs, and it's a fascinating draft philosophy that these NFL teams like to implement. Oh, well, he's a running back. I don't want to take him too high. He's a safety. He's a linebacker. Well, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all shakes out, because the top end talent are at the quote unquote devalued positions that teams don't like to select high, but somebody's going to have to do it.
You mentioned Anthony Hill maybe a little bit too high, or not, that some may think he's a little bit too high. Does that mean his length keeps him from getting down where they need him to be more physical, or what?
Well, I think, coming into the season, Anthony Hill was being bandied about as a potential top 10 overall selection. So I think some of the shine is maybe lessened from what the expectations were coming into the season. But I think you see a tremendous skill set, a guy who can play on ball, off ball, get after the quarterback if you need him to in situations. So downhill player, fills the gap. So I like how Anthony Hill plays. But again, you're talking about a linebacker spot with a very deep linebacker class. I think that's why, teams will say, well, do we really need to take a linebacker this high? I think you could see teams maybe wait after those first two come off the board, which would probably be Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles.
I want to ask you this, because are you in Indianapolis or are you somewhere else right now? I don't remember what your good friend Neil Stratton told me.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting right outside the media room here at the convention center.
Okay.
Lucas Oil Stadium's right across the street.
Yep.
The defensive line drills are going on as we speak, I believe. So, out here in Indianapolis for another year.
I love that place. I spent 18 days there during the COVID NCAA tournament when Baylor won it all. St. Elmo's, is it Prime 47? What is the steakhouse of your choice?
Well, I like cleaning my sinuses when I get here. You got to go and get the shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's, get that nice little burn going, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it just sets the tone for the rest of the week. So I'm a St. Elmo's guy. But Prime 47 is like, good luck getting in that establishment. I mean, you're going to be throwing some elbows. It's tight corners trying to move around there.
Thank you, buddy. Rick, thanks. I hope we can get you on again. I'll be in touch, and we really do appreciate your time and giving us the time during the break. Go do what you do really well. Go watch those who do their thing at the NFL Combine. Again, Rick Saratella, founder
Thank you, guys.
of All Access Football. And when I was in Indianapolis, and we've been there, we've covered a Super Bowl there, I was there. That is just unbelievable food. And the access and how you get everywhere without having to be outside too much, even though it's cold as hell when I was there. They just do a really good job of really any kind of special events inside Indianapolis.
Yeah, they do. And there are cities that care that you're coming and cities that don't. I would say that Miami, as fun of a city as it can be, doesn't really care that you're there because everybody else is there for something else. But Indianapolis, like, you're there, they really care. New Orleans, that's the lifeblood of their city, is people coming in to their city, so they super care.
New Orleans' whole thing is just hospitality, because
it really is.
They would crater without the hospitality market, right? I mean, that's most of their business. I've seen a lot of people that did not enjoy San Francisco, by the way. Like, I mean, I know Michael Irvin, like, publicly on his podcast, I guess, kind of berated San Francisco and talked about it, how he thought it was like the worst of the Super Bowl cities that he'd been to. But I don't know. I saw a lot of other people. Like, I guess the big fear was like the worst stereotypical experience where, like, you're just walking through poop piles all over the place and kind of thing. Like, they cleaned it up. But as far as like I think he was pointing more towards it was just kind of boring. I heard the media party was not that great.
No.
And
Called
yeah,
it.
there was just there's kind of some just like this wasn't that great of a site for a Super Bowl. I don't want them to come back here from Irvin, but I saw various others that were that same way.
The city itself did a good job of cleaning up some things they needed to clean up. I mentioned this, the airport was phenomenal, how spacious and clean it was. But, yeah, obviously, getting a meal there, it's expensive as hell.
Yeah.
And it was hard because some things were in San Jose, some things were in Santa Clara. The game was San Francisco downtown where all the media headquarters were.
That's what really sucks.
It's kind of like in Dallas, Craig. Remember the Ice Bowl when you had Arlington, the game, you had the Gaylord and Irving, and it was spread out. So Fort Worth and Dallas, it just did not work, plus the weather was awful.
Well, I think that's what really sucks. I mean, the fact, like, seriously, the fact that Dallas has not had a Super Bowl since then, Jerry did not build that place for a Super Bowl.
Nope.
And you can have all the damn concerts and ACM awards and whatever else you want to throw in there, WrestleManias and UFC fights and boxing matches, and you can throw every damn event in there you want to. But, buddy, you did it for some of that, but you mostly did it for Super Bowls.
Well, you're also basically promised at least two or three.
And it's been over 20 years now? Or about
2011. Season
15 years.
15 years. So I just think though I remember going to the San Francisco Super Bowl, whatever 6-7 years ago that would have been
2016.
And I remember the long ass bus ride to San Jose, another just random place you have to go to because that's where the opening night was. Opening nights in San Jose, the media's in San Francisco, the game's in Santa Clara, and this is first world problems definitely, but. Man, this is only going to get worse. Like, Chicago's now going to have a stadium on the outskirts. Cleveland's going to have a stadium on the outskirts. Dallas is in Arlington, and most of them are that way now at this point. But, yeah, I think it just kind of sucks that it's just so spread out.
You know why, though? The weather.
Money.
The weather was a fluke. It was a once in a lifetime.
I'm not talking specifically. I'm talking about in general with all these Super Bowls.
Because they tried to break the damn attendance record and build some flimsy-ass bleachers, and it fell.
I know, but I'm not talking about Arlington. I'm saying, like, all of these Super Bowls now are like, we're in Chicago. No, you're really not. We're in New York. No, you're really not.
Yeah.
We're in,
okay.
Yeah, like, we're in Miami. Okay, yeah, you still are, but most of these places aren't really in the cities they claim at this point. They're on the outskirts cities, and I just think that kind of sucks. And, yes, from an attendance standpoint, even if you're just going for the game, you don't want to spend a week in Arlington waiting for the game. So you're staying in Dallas, and then you're going to Fort Worth probably. Anyways, it's first world problems, but I never made it to Indy. I heard Indy's a good city as far as all that goes.
Well, you can't
freaking loved it.
Yeah, Indy is, and everything's right there. Like, that's the thing about it. You get to experience
everything's right within about 10 blocks.
And when you go to Dallas, Fort Worth, the Bay Area, Chicagoland, like in Chicago State, like, I think they're making a huge mistake by moving it to a crappy part of Indiana right across the border. But, again, it's not my call. I'm not Kevin Warren, who kind of ruins everything that he touches.
Yep.
Absolutely. But, yeah, when you go and you cover it, it's nice to have everything there, and it's convenient, and you get to celebrate what is the actual city and the people of it. And no offense to the people of San Jose or Santa Clara, but, when 85% of the things are in one spot in the game and some media things are in another spot, you're not really experiencing the area.
No.
You're just, you should be showcasing.
Indianapolis is all
Indianapolis is all self-contained, and what they did when they were there, what they do for the Combine, is they have all these people who are very proud of their city. Houston was actually like this too, where they're very proud of living where they live, and they are around to help you, and you're like, hey, I really want a good cheeseburger. Where's the best cheeseburger? And he's like, listen, I'll give you my top 12.
Yep.
Stay here, write them down. I mean, that's the kind of Midwesterner you get there.
Yeah,
I
where's a great sandwich chopper?
Really brought that up because, we were talking to a guy who's in Indianapolis, so it just made me think of how they've held that event for so long now, and they seem to do a really good job with it, to the point of, like, the NFL wants to move everything around, and that thing stayed right where it is, at least for right now, instead of being a traveling show like the draft has become, for example, following in the footsteps of the Super Bowl. But, yeah, Indy's a place I haven't been, and y'all were commenting on it, and I realized I haven't been there, but it sounds like it does a pretty damn good job, and it's actually still in its roots. It's not this far. It's like you're going to crossing over to Illinois to attend the media party or something like that. Right?
And again, I was there and covered games in the where Butler, among some of the other great gyms, arenas, and golly, the Indianapolis Dome is like right across the street from where I stayed. It's a beautiful, and what they also have they have walkways above everything, so you can get to things easier without having to even deal with too much traffic. But I just walked about a half a mile down to St. Elmo's, not every night, but it was wonderful. Craig, did you know that Jamad McCoy was born in Tyler, Texas, played at White House High School?
No, I did not know that.
Kid from Tennessee. I went and looked at my site. He had a pretty good year, 1 year receiving. But eventually, of course, now is a defensive back for Tennessee. But, man, Rick didn't give him too much with that. Not sure about his competitive desire.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever heard that about Jamal McCoy. He apparently went to White House, but I also haven't been following high school football the same way for about 6-7 years now. So that's a byproduct of just having done it for a long time. So it just kind of loses I think a lot of people who followed recruiting in the early 2000s when it really lifted off and Rivals was the big site and was its own entity, and Scout even was around, and like there was just something so much more fun about recruiting back then, especially compared to now, when it's like not based on relationships the way that it was, and it's not based on choosing the best school necessarily all the time. It's like, what's the best offer? And the transfer portal also has killed off recruiting being as meaningful as it was. So, yeah, I kind of miss the days where signing day was a big deal, but now it just comes and goes. You're like, whatever. I mean, they signed 5 guys. Maybe they'll contribute. Maybe they won't. If they don't, they'll be out of here. If they do, they'll either get more money to stay or they'll get more money to leave. I mean, that's unfortunately sort of what it's become. But, yeah, I used to really enjoy recruiting, and that would have been a guy that I would have kept tabs on. But now it's just – let me know when the team settled in. It's kind of where I am outside of just the big splash names that you go, okay, where's Arch Manning going to pick when all this is said and done, or Dante Moore or wherever. There's still those big stories. But, yeah, a lot of the minutia, I feel like, for me at least, and I think for a lot of people who remember those glory days of the 2000s and how it was, and really was for 15, 20 years after that almost, I just kind of miss that. I kind of miss being excited for signing day. The one I remember most is I was actually traveling. I don't remember what I was going to. It might have been a Super Bowl, actually. And I'm sitting there in the airport, and cell phones were a lot different back then. No social media or anything. And I'm trying to figure out where Fred Rouse is signing and Ryan Perilou. And who was the third guy? Martellus Bennett, I believe, was the third guy in that trio that Texas was trying to land. Yeah. And then they all ended up going to not Texas. And it was like Bennett signed with A&M, and then Perilou went to LSU, and then Rouse went to Florida State. And I just remember just reading the message boards and taking that all in. And I don't know why that memory sticks with me, but I think it's just because it was so unpredictable and fun, and now it's a lot less unpredictable, and it's a lot less fun.
The AOL instant message with my buddies when we got Fred Rouse, I think was
nothing.
Was like, suck it, Texas, you can't do it. Yeah. And then he had –
Texas missed nothing from those. Martellus Bennett, that's one thing.
Martellus Bennett was hell of a player.
But the other two, they missed nothing out of losing out on those guys.
Yeah, Martellus Bennett. And the thing is, I think Martellus Bennett, they lost to Martellus Bennett maybe one time in the time he was there. So, like, he was very productive for A&M. Actually, single-handedly won a game here at Baylor. The team was kind of mediocre.
He was a character,
He was a character. He probably still is a character, but he was a character.
Oh, I'm sure.
But, yeah, he was the one that they probably would have lamented losing the most. But Fred Rouse, I remember being so excited. Like, he was a wide receiver. He was a defensive back. Heck, he could do anything. And then he didn't do – like, I think he caught like 6 touchdowns his whole time at FSU and left.
Then Perilou played a bit, but he was not anywhere near what he was intended to be.
I'm surprised Garrett didn't throw his chair out here when I was bringing his name up.
Ryan Perilou, my God.
I think he's probably got some folks who still love him, but yeah, I just remember that specific year, that trio of guys that Texas was all in on, and then on signing day, it was just like one by one unraveled of like, nope, they're going somewhere else. Nope, they're going somewhere else. Nope, he's going oh my God, they went 0 for 3. And then, it ended up all okay in the end for them. But yeah, I remember that time just being very exciting. I couldn't tell you much about that kind of a scenario ever happening again, or the last time something like that's happened. It's been a while, unfortunately.
Guess what? UT didn't miss him because Colt McCoy ended up being pretty damn good.
Well, Yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up playing at Jacksonville State for, I think, a year or two.
Well, that's because he got kicked off of LSU because he was going in the riverboat casinos.
Failed a drug test.
Yeah, he was going to the
missed
riverboat.
Missed a team meeting. Yep. Skipped classes. And also not obligated to be a player at LSU.
And that's not a this all sucks thing either. It's just a fond memory of, like, I remember that 05 signing day like it was yesterday. I was in an airport randomly in Florida, and I just was trying to get every little piece of news I could through the message, because all you had was the message boards. You didn't have any social media, so there was nothing coming through anywhere else other than keep refreshing on, like, the Rivals main board or if you got a password to Orange Bloods or something, right? Like, but yeah, that was fun. That was a fun time.
Fred Rouse played a total of 6 plays at FSU.
Yeah, man.
He had, on those plays, this is the plays. If he was in, he caught a pass. 6 receptions, 114 yards, 1 touchdown in 2005 at FSU. And that includes the bowl game that he played in. He then did not play in 2006, and then he transferred and played 1 year in 2007 at UTEP, where he had 25 receptions in 10 games for 379 yards and 2 touchdowns.
What's crazy is that he would have probably made like a couple $1 million back then just by being where he was ranked. And it would have had Texas and Florida State and everybody else.
Yeah.
No, we'll raise it. No, you got a skyrise apartment in Austin. We'll get you the Lambo or whatever would have been offered. Florida State would have gotten him free shoes at Dillard's or something. That didn't land. No.
Yeah.
No.
No. I still have trauma.
Free Nikes.
Yeah.
But no. That was just a really fun day that I fondly remember.
Hey,
but
we have Off the Radar coming up. We're gonna probably just do a mini thing here before we break and come back with Off the Radar. Go ahead.
Peter Warwick would have had a deal. He and Lavernius Coles would have had a deal with Dillard's. After that, it would have been great. And
they would have had a patch on their jersey.
Dillard's would have had the Heisman Trophy winner. If Peter Warwick does not get suspended for getting some free khakis or cheap, deeply discounted. He paid $40 for $300 worth of stuff. That was just the employee discount deal that he got. I will not begrudge him that. That's the hookup. If he had not done that,
he should have gotten some.
Would have won the Heisman Trophy over Ron Dane.
Should have gotten crab claws or whatever it was.
Yeah. Jameis waited until after he won the Heisman Trophy to cash in on his hookups.
All right. Thank you for watching what we do. We appreciate you. And if you're in the chat room, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd appreciate you doing that. Let's go through a couple of real quick stories. Did you guys see the Penn State media member throwing shade at Iowa State's media and Ames, Iowa? This is from Mark Brennan. Brandon, I know we hopefully gave you enough notice on this. It's a video, and go ahead and show it if you don't mind. Here
we go.
All right, this is Rocco Beck. Rocco Beck, former Iowa State quarterback.
I thought this was a media table. Hey, no, this is mine.
Yeah, so he's at a meeting room. All right, so the reporter, that's good, Brandon. The reporter said new Penn State quarterback Rocco Beck discovers he's not in Ames anymore. Cool scene at his first PSU presser. And this just angered, and it was a cheap shot at the Ames, Iowa, or Des Moines, or Iowa State media. It's not like they didn't have a clump around him as well. It was unnecessary. He's taking kind of a beating about it, a little bit arrogant about what he said.
You kind of talked over. He does. You could have heard it in that clip. He's like, a little bit different than Ames, though. But like they had a little conversation there before. He's trying to figure out where he was sitting, and so you would have heard that comment. Like the Iowa State, I saw Chris Williams reacting to it, and I think I'll just sort of I didn't get to see his full-fledged conversation or talk about it, but he kind of, I think, just pointed in the direction of just like kind of the dude who said that being an arrogant a-hole. And you get that. You get a lot of guys who cover teams that then somehow feel like they won the games too sometimes, and that they created that history because they're along for the ride. And so it's almost like the bigger the programs, the more likelihood you're going to run into some media members who feel like they were part of why Ohio State's won this many national championships. So I'm not really surprised that somebody at Penn State feels like, oh, you're coming from little old Ames, like, oh, man, now you're in the big time. Dude, I guarantee you that there were more media members at most Iowa State media sessions than what we just saw there.
Yeah.
They don't have like a small group of media. That guy just makes himself look unintelligent and arrogant because he clearly doesn't understand how beloved and how well covered Iowa State is. And he, I think, grossly overestimates that Penn State is just like this 10 times larger scenario where Rocco Becht is suddenly going to get gun shy or something in front of all these cameras. That guy's been in front of cameras for several years now. I don't think he was intimidated. I think he probably is just like settling in and trying to figure out how things work. And, yeah, I don't know how many media sessions are like at a cafeteria table or whatever that was, but I'm not going to make too big of a deal about it. This might be a really nice guy, but that was definitely arrogant. I think that's fair to say, and you do get a lot of that, especially the bigger programs that you're around. There are some media guys at certain schools that are a-holes. They really are. And part of why they are a-holes is because they think that they've got the same sway as the school that they cover. And, you know, to each their own. We try to avoid being like that, certainly. And I think that Chris Williams summed it up. If you want to see somebody rant about it, then he did, because he's an Iowa State guy through and through.
Also, some of the bigger schools I've ever been to have the crappiest media setups because they don't, like, they know that everybody's going to come cover them anyway, so they don't need amenities. They just spend that money somewhere else. So
it's just remarkable to me,
yeah,
Paul,
like,
that
it matters, but yeah.
It's just remarkable to me that we still have in 2026 people from up north that are like, they think of Iowa and they think that it's just some hayseeds that like are lucky to have an internet connection, I guess, or something like that. There's still this thought, like, sure, there's rural areas everywhere
like,
where you can find that.
Like Happy Valley, Pennsylvania.
There's some thriving metropolis. Yeah, like that's my point. It's like, okay, Columbus, Ohio is a massive city, all right? Like that's a bit bigger, or Austin's a massive. But yeah, it's like Happy Valley is what you're comparing. It's like not like it's New York City to Longview, Texas or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to like sit here and just like deride and like abuse this guy for 30 minutes because he made that comment. But if I was an Iowa State fan, I would probably have been pissed at that too.
Yeah, no, I would. I mean, again, just because your town's small doesn't mean you're, you know, some bumpkin.
And just because your city's big doesn't mean your thing is either.
Some slack-jawed yokel that's like, hey, you guys seen this iPhone?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean,
there's this flyover state perception that is always going to be there, but people, I think, really show their ignorance sometimes when talking about that type of thing.
It even sometimes, as much as the Cowboys have as a massive media that covers them every day, NFL teams in general now, you don't think Kansas City doesn't have a massive amount of media following what they do after winning Super Bowls and Patrick Mahomes? There are some bigger than others, but it's almost like this. Yeah, that was unnecessary.
I mean, Kansas City is a pretty big city. I mean, there's 32 big cities. You got to have a big city to have an NFL team. I know what you're saying, but I mean, it would be different if he was covering Texas and being in Austin or Columbus or Los Angeles, and he's saying, "Oh, little Ames, Iowa." It's like, dude, you're in Happy Valley. Like, with all due respect, you're not that much of a bigger deal as far as all those things go. And I mean that respectfully. So, Iowa State caught a stray. I'm sure it won't be the first, or wasn't the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last, because if he goes and has success, he'll be like, aren't you glad you moved on from little old, now you're playing in the Big Ten, and we're going to get plenty of that, I'm sure.
They just stole all of what Iowa State basically had in their football program. Yeah.
Doesn't fit the narrative.
All right. Now, real quick, and then we break, and then Craig's off the radar. 5 o'clock, we'll have Mitch Sherman. He'll join us at 5. Targeting rule, which, Craig, you and I spoke about this earlier in the week, that they're trying to look at it differently. This is what they're going to submit for a vote next month from the D1 Football Rules Committee. This is what will be submitted. The first targeting penalty, no suspension in the next game. Second penalty, miss the first half of the next game. Third penalty, miss the next game, and a 1-year trial rule will be considered March 19th by the FBS Oversight Committee. So they're not going to carry it over.
Do you still get ejected from the game?
I don't see that.
You have it in there.
I don't. They're going to have it. They said it shows that it's helped, but this is still kind of the evolution of the targeting rule.
I think you should at least have a grace period. If you keep doing it, suspend them. But if you do it one time, you shouldn't come out of the game. You shouldn't be suspended.
I don't think that you should be suspended for one time unless it's just totally malicious and you can prove that it was malicious. But if it happens twice in a game, then, I do think you need to step in and say, all right, well, you've done it twice now. Like, that's above average, we need to penalize you in some
I
more
agree.
severe form.
I
I
think
think that's pretty simple.
Everybody should get one
Yeah, you get
incidental targeting, and then
If you do it twice in the same game, then yeah, you're missing
Yeah.
the next half of whatever that would
Yeah.
entail. Yeah, I got a lot to get to, so let's.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. I'll make sure I'll check on the ejection part. This is 365 Sports. Baylor alumni got some new information from Doug Furch and the Baylor alumni fan engagement, because coming up, the Big 12 men's and women's basketball tournament in Kansas City. The team hotel will be the Lowe's in Kansas City. Also, during the tournament, they'll have a rally for both the men and women whenever they leave the team hotel headed to the arena in Kansas City. The Baylor send-off rallies before every game during the tournament. I've seen them do this before. It's pretty cool, as people, no matter where they're staying in Kansas City, they'll be there to send them off, walking from the hotel to get on the bus. They'll also have, by the way, in April, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame lunch with a Legend Series. Mike McGraw, former Baylor golf coach, won national championships at Oklahoma State, retired because of the health of his wife, and he wanted to make sure he spent more time with her, helping her. They'll have that. That's coming up on Thursday, April the 23rd, and tickets available. Ask Doug Furch or Paul Thorpe. Get on Facebook at baylor.edu, the Baylor Alumni Group.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The time is now. It's time for a new ride at the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr GMC Buick Cadillac.
Sierra blends the premium interior with the muscle of a true work truck, built to handle the job and look good doing it. It's why GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. During our New Year New Ride sales event, qualified buyers can save $13,000 on a Sierra. Drive one home today for just $41,390.
Call now, get here now, or log on now for the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
Welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories that are typically off the radar, or in the case of the story I'm actually going to lead off with here, because it's just coming out in the last few minutes, and it reverts back to sort of what we were talking about at the beginning of the show in some ways. There will be college football in this segment from time to time as it calls upon it, and today there will be because it's just timely with what we were discussing at the very beginning, and Cody Campbell and the SEC and the Big Ten kind of going back and forth on the future of college athletics and how all that's going to work. Well, friends, You wanted political intervention, right? We're about to have not the type that you're hoping for, where somebody comes in and says this wide sweeping thing like no transfer portal and no this or that. Like, it's not that dream scenario that's never going to happen and is completely unlikely. There is going to be a committee. There's going to be another committee, guys, from the White House. This is from Ross Dellinger. So that's who we started off talking about his reporting on the Cody Campbell and Greg Sankey.
Sleeps.
Yeah, I don't think that he does. But this is from Ross Dellinger in the last 45 minutes or so. The fight over the future of college athletics is reaching its most prominent battlefield yet, the White House. President Donald Trump is convening next Friday a presidential roundtable of more than 36 dignitaries and sports celebrities to further explore solutions for the industry's ills. The invitee list is a who's who, from key political figures to prominent sports stakeholders, TV executives, national title-winning football coaches, a sitting state governor, an NBA commissioner, and Tiger Woods, among others, are a part of this commission. So people spoke to him anonymously, said it's unclear if all of those invited, which is up to 40 people, will be able to attend. Some are skeptical the meeting will transpire as scheduled. White House meetings always subject to delay or cancellation due to unexpected events. I mean, we got like maybe 3 wars brewing right now, so yeah, it could anything could happen at any time. But it says this is the amid the years-long congressional discourse over college sports legislation, the group, dubbed the Saving College Sports Roundtable, is expected to hold discussions over solutions to a once amateur industry rapidly evolving into a more personalized or professionalized outfit. So the invitees, this is why I was just bringing it up, just to point out some of the people invited to be a part of this around 40-person Saving College Sports Roundtable. The power conference commissioners from the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and ACC, at least one athletic director representing each league, which he has here as Wake Forest, Iowa State, Indiana, and Oklahoma, so they're ADs. Notre Dame Athletic Director Pete Bavacqua, ex-Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick, former coaches Mac Brown, Nick Saban, and Urban Meyer, Texas Tech board member Cody Campbell, Heisman winners Tim Tebow and Charlie Ward, university presidents and chancellors Doug Girard of Kansas, Jeff Gold of Nebraska, Dondi Plomin of Tennessee, and former Clemson and West Virginia president Jim Clements. There are more from outside of college athletics, including business titans, athlete celebrities, and pro sports executives, including NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Get away from college sports, Adam Silver.
Yeah, he has enough on his plate.
You talk about ruining the regular season. The worst person to invite to try to make the regular season matter. Millionaire businessmen, because we need them involved in everything, like David Blitzer, Mark Gannis, and Jerry Cardinal, pro golfers Tiger Woods and Bryson DeChambeau, former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice.
She gets included in everything.
Plus, media executives from Fox and ESPN are also expected to have received an invitation. Trump will serve as chair of the roundtable with vice chairs Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, and president of the New York Yankees, Randy Levine, or Levine. Do you know which one it is?
I can't remember. Yeah.
Levine or Levine. I'm sorry, I don't know that exactly. I hate not being right on pronunciation. So there you go, man. There is a new roundtable to save college sports, and there's just all sorts of people involved in here, so we'll see where this goes.
First of all, there's too many people.
There's way too many people.
There's way too many people.
I agree.
If they all show up, I don't know if they're all going to show up. Some of them may have an appetite for this kind of thing. Some of them might not. But look, with President Trump's interview with Josh Pate last week, with this, yes, he's inserting himself into this, but I think it's important for people to realize there is really nothing that he can do about it.
He can't just go like, I'm the president, you all are going back to your old conferences.
No,
yeah, that's not.
Can't wave a magic wand.
No, that's not how. And I know that the last few years, the line between what and this goes back to multiple presidents, but the line between what executive orders are has been blurred. But ultimately, the thing is that he could have an executive order, and the next president could think it's the stupidest idea in the world, and because it's not passed through Congress, all they have to do is, I just undo everything that guy did. And it could be honestly, it could be one executive order of every executive order that was signed between January 21st and January 20th of this 4-year span, I'm repealing. I'm just doing it because I don't agree with any of them. So because of that, there's really nothing that he can do, and there's really nothing that Congress has an appetite for. So this is PR for everybody involved, if it even happens. And there's far too many people that are involved in this thing. And while I do respect that, just looking at the names of the people on this list,
covered all the bases, that's for sure.
The one thing I will tell you is he's got people who have different opinions about it, which is something that is rare in Washington, where usually you kind of just put yourself in an echo chamber of people who agree with you and wait for that to go on. But I don't know what they can do.
There's too many people. There's a lot of people will, like you said, will have different opinions. You could cut that list in half and make the networks be there, the commissioners be there, but they do that anyway. And then maybe get Nick Saban or Mac Brown or someone to give their perspective of it. But will anything get done? Hey, good for him for trying. It may not end up with anything, but
I mean, it's better than, I guess, not talking about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So there's at least some conversation, and there's a lot of really powerful people who could be involved in whatever does happen, like Mac Brown or Nick Saban or whatever businessmen, certainly TV executives, conference commissioners, all that. I mean, that's just a long list of people. I mean, a very cool honor to say you were on like a presidential college football commission to try to save it. So I think there's some of that that's in play here of like, it's just a cool thing to be able to put on your resume. But as far as it actually being able to accomplish anything, I mean, that's where we'll see. And as Ross points out, there's a lot of divide. You have people like Cody Campbell, who we've already talked about at the beginning of the show, which is why I started off with this, is going right back around. Is he and Greg Sankey are going to be in the same room, and they clearly don't agree on how to save college sports. So much less you pan out and you're talking about like Tiger Woods and Condoleezza, well, the Stanford connection there with the Tiger and Condoleezza, or Bob Thompson if he's on there or something, right? So anyways, as it says also on here, they may never even meet, much less all together.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
I do like the fact that they have the ADs are from 3 schools. Indiana's a massive school. We've learned that.
The national championship, Indiana Hoosiers.
Oklahoma has a new AD because Castiglione stepped aside. And then Wake Forest and Iowa State, a couple of schools. I'm not sure about both of them. Wake Forest, kind of a private school. There's nothing wrong with trying. They may never meet. There's nothing wrong with trying, and maybe if people are listening, they could find, but in the end.
But there is not one person on this panel that can do something congressionally.
Well, that's what
there's not one. But now there are people will be invited to this. If you're a conference commissioner, an AD, a booster, a president, if you actually, like, Adam Silver can't do anything. Bryson DeChambeau can offer advice. Tiger Woods can offer opinions. You know, Tim Tebow and Charlie Ward can say, well, as former players that played at a high level and got a lot of notoriety, here's where we would have liked to see things when we were winning the Heisman Trophy. Like, those things are valuable in their own way. But as far as getting anything done, like, this is not a group of people who can do that for the most part, except for the people who are already working on it.
Yeah,
all the time.
Which they're trying not to let happen.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what I said yesterday about the fantasy booking. Like, there's different things. Whether it's like your favorite comic. Like, if I wrote Batman, here's how I would do it, right? Or if I booked the WWE, here's what my WrestleMania would look like. Or if I ran college sports, here's what and like, that's fun. I do like all of those things actually in some form or fashion at some point. But my whole point with let's name a commissioner is. The problem with it is if you go take media guy, former head coach, former player, former politician, whoever, they still have to be able to actually do things. So you can name somebody a commissioner all you want, but if that commissioner actually has no power to mandate that all of the geography go back to making sense, or that Army-Navy play on this certain day, or the playoff look like this, it's a position that's in name only, really. So we all want, I think, some type of central authority figure, but just simply naming somebody a commissioner doesn't make them an authority other than just being knowledgeable about it, but actually being able to do anything really. We're not at that point yet, so we'll see what comes out on the other side of this, but that was just so interesting because of what we were talking about at the beginning and all these names I just rattled off. I mean, literally from every industry that touches college sports is seemingly involved in this, so I'm sure we'll hear more from Ross on that and see where that goes. Meanwhile, a couple of other things.
have it. Hopefully they do. If something comes out of it, which it can't, like you said, congressionally, but if something comes out of it, people share ideas. Maybe some will bark at others that never get barked at. I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Like I said, we'll see what happens. So, Cowboys, this was from a few days ago. Paul, just your thoughts on Javonte Williams, a 3-year deal. I'm just going to sparse in some NFL notes here.
Good deal. It's not prohibitive to them. I think it's essential. I think most of these, like 3 years or 2-year deals, 2-year deals or 1-year deals, 5-year deals or 4-year deals, kind of a thing.
What was the last part of his season like compared to the great start that he had?
Start
wearing out?
A little bit, but I'm fine with it. I still think they need to address it behind him.
Right.
Yeah.
Like drafting somebody?
Yeah, I think in the right spot.
Meanwhile, at the Combine, there's a lot of talk going on. I just wanted to put that in there because when there's something substantial with the Cowboys, at least mention it.
Like a $10 million kicker?
Which he's worth every penny.
I don't really want to get into that here because we could go on about that. And also, I don't think the reporting's all that accurate. Imagine that.
I know Clarence, Calvin unfortunately had to retract part of that today, and I love him to death. But
I didn't know that's where it came from. We like Calvin a lot. But, it's like I say all the time now, you can't believe everything you read at first glance anymore. You just can't. Even if it's coming from somewhere established, like you need to go look at a second place and see if it's true. Unfortunately, that's just kind of where we are. There's a lot of information floating around. But nevertheless, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But at the Combine today, I just saw this in the last hour. David Bailey, Texas Tech edge, 4.5 140 for the big man from the Red Raiders. 6'4", 251, ran a 4.51. And I saw somebody say he's way faster than that, but the end part of it was enjoy the New York Jets, son. Enjoy the New York Jets.
Look, his 40 time in Reuben Bain's arms might have put him on the Jets.
Right.
Yeah. He deserves to be the second pick in the draft, in my opinion. Just watching him play. And then what these things do is if you watch a guy like Bailey play, and then he goes to the Combine and sets the turf on fire, you're like, like what I was seeing in film, because most of these people have not seen them in person. Now, seeing somebody in person, you can really understand it. But you're watching on film, you're like, okay, well, are these guys just slow? Do they just suck? I haven't really seen them. And then you watch a guy after being dominant all year long, then go and, jump and run and do all these things really fast. You're like, no, he really is that good.
Yeah, that could be actually a time that he wishes he could have done better. He ran a second 4.54, so he didn't get faster. But obviously there's a couple comments of like, oh, he could actually run faster than that. But either way, it's still a hell of a time for an edge rusher. And it might have cemented him as the number 2 overall pick in the draft behind Fernando Mendoza, who is like clearly the number 1 guy. And it would take the world going to war to prevent, I think, Mendoza from being a Raider at this point. But the number 2 spot, David Bailey certainly helping himself to that. And the final note here, coming out of the Combine, the Colts have given quarterback Anthony Richardson Sr. permission to seek a trade, the former Florida standout who you cannot possibly be surprised that we're at this point already in his career, because so much of his story was, wow, he's such a Combine freak. Wow, he's such a Combine freak. Look at him at the Combine. And we never learn our lesson, or at least some people never learn lessons. The Raiders,
coach in every sport.
The Raiders for a long time. We're just like, what? You're 40 times what? Okay, screw all the other red flags. Like, we're drafting you. But no, Anthony Richardson has been given permission to seek a trade. He lost the job to Daniel Jones last year. And so they are going to bring back Daniel Jones, and he is going to go see what else is out there and explore what trades might be available. But I can't imagine there's anybody just knocking down the door to get Anthony Richardson at this point. But a very notable name not that long ago in both college and in the draft process. And I think there's a bunch of people today going, told you so. But nevertheless, he's out on the market, or at least they're putting him out on the market.
He threw 2 passes last year because Daniel Jones was so much better with them than he was with the Giants.
Well, he also had the unluckiest injury in the history of the world, where he was doing resistance band training.
Right.
It snapped and popped him in the eye, and he was out for the year.
That's been his biggest bugaboo, his injuries. Yeah.
But he needs...
Could have snapped him, hit him somewhere else. Would have killed him.
But I think he needs to be with a coach who is really good with molding mobile quarterbacks into viable starting quarterbacks. And I don't think he was with that in Indianapolis.
They both have great Joe Milton or Anthony Richardson. Both of them have their problems.
I think I still take Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I would,
Anthony Richardson is 23 years old. He's still young. His career's not over. That accident you're talking about screwed his eye up, and there's still questions about his vision at this point, although there's been some reassurances that he's going to be okay in the long run, but he's had issues with that. Missed a lot of time with injuries, but still he's 23, and you knew when you drafted him that you were drafting him as a raw prospect, that he was not a done deal. So hell, go give him to like Cliff Kingsbury or somebody like, or Sean McVay, and let him be the third man on the totem pole and let him develop.
Well, look, if you're the Rams, that's a really good point, and that's where Cliff Kingsbury is, right? Is with the Rams.
With McVay.
So if you go and give him to Kingsbury and McVay and say you're the backup for Matthew Stafford this year, because they do have 2 first-round picks and they could conceivably pick somebody like Ty Simpson or whatever. But if you have Anthony Richardson that you give up a 6th-round pick for, you essentially have your backup quarterback, and then you can let those guys who were mobile quarterback gurus work with him and see what happens.
So there's the catch that he does have 1 year left on his rookie deal. So you will have to then go and reconfigure, and I don't know what a deal looks like when a guy's barely played, has an eye issue and whatnot, but whoever gets him will then have to...
He'll be on the Trey Lance path right now.
He'll be on the Trey Lance path, but there you go for that, for this segment, I should say. I know we got Mitch coming.
No, I told him we're about 5 minutes late. Go ahead.
I'm really kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty. There was the NFL report cards, but I actually want to save that for something else.
Okay.
And also...
I was going to bring that up.
The Big 12 Eats thing, we're doing a segment on that tomorrow. We'll
Brandon,
carve out time for that tomorrow.
We will do the Big 12 Eats tomorrow. That's a fun segment. Yeah.
So there you go.
Randy Levine.
Okay.
By the way, Randy Levine, the president of the New York Yankees. Brandon, we have him? You're right. We're now joined by Mitch Sherman, theathletic.com. He covers Nebraska. Now, listen, there are 3 schools, and Craig, you're the one that sent me the note, that BYU, Clemson, and Nebraska are the ones jumping the shark early to get into spring football, and Mitch Sherman, great friend of the show, joins us on 365 Sports. Mitch, convince me they will not be they will convince me they can win. Convince me they can be 7-5 or better.
Smokey, I think you have your mind made up. It sounds to me based on the way that you asked the question. I
have PTSD, baby.
7-5. I mean, that's not necessarily setting the bar real high. I think Nebraska can start 5-0 in 2026. I have to pull the schedule up and look at it in front of me. It's been a few days since I last went through it, but I know without even taking a look that it's favorable at the beginning of things for Nebraska, and something that Matt Rule has not done in his 3 years is be able to start 5-0, and that would require non-conference wins that Nebraska will be favored heavily in. There is no Power 4 opponent on the schedule in September in the non-conference, or at all in the non-conference, and then at Michigan State, which has a first-year coach in Pat Fitzgerald, and will be rebuilding in Maryland. So, winnable games, 5 of them right out of the stretch. And I think if Nebraska can accomplish that while the schedule gets extremely difficult after that point with back-to-back college football playoff teams before you even talk about Ohio State, 5-0 should be enough momentum to get Nebraska in position to win 7 games. And if not, you have real problems, because already through 3 seasons, Matt Rule is 2-10 in the month of November, and you'd like to see that trend move in the opposite direction.
Well, Mitch, after that Indiana, Oregon bye week, Washington.
Please stop.
That's just mean. That's kind of mean. But if you can steal a game here and there, you can wind up 8-9 wins with this team. Is Anthony Calandria an upgrade at quarterback over Dylan Raiola?
It really depends on the system that Nebraska's putting him in. Mm-hmm. Dylan Raiola was not the problem for Nebraska last year. It was a problem when he got hurt in November and missed the last 4 games, the last 3 regular season games and the bowl against Utah. That was a problem, but up to that point, he was not the problem for Nebraska. Protecting him was definitely an issue, but more important or more essential to Nebraska's issues as a team were the inability to stop the run game. And That got worse in the month of November when Big Ten football gets down to its core, and Nebraska played USC and Penn State and Iowa and was gouged in the run game. That didn't have anything to do with Dylan Raiola, or it was very much unrelated. You could say, cause and effect, like you get the offense struggling and it becomes more difficult for the defense to do their thing, but whatever. I'm not putting that on the quarterback. If Nebraska has a system that is well suited for Anthony Calandria, the transfer from UNLV, who started 2 years at Virginia before winning Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, if it has a viable system for him, then I think he can be an upgrade over Raiola. But Raiola was largely good for Nebraska last year through 8+ games, and then things really broke down after the injury there.
Is Smokey the most negative Nebraska fan you know?
Oh my gosh, no.
There's worse.
Well, I need to work on that. Then
Well, maybe I'm shielded here. Maybe I don't know the full extent of your negativity. I'm not around you daily.
Yeah.
No, I think you get most of it. Actually,
you get my text during games sometimes.
He does
but
text me.
I just finally I gave up on that. Yeah.
There's a fair amount of negativity. I think you find that in every fan base, and the difference I think right now is that in the recent off seasons, in the Matt Rule era of off seasons, it's been there has been a lot of positivity, and there has been a lot of turning the corner from whatever happened in the season. And Nebraska felt good about the end of the season a year ago at this time, coming off of 2024, getting to a bowl game for the first time in forever since 2016, and then winning that bowl game. They were happy. Nebraska fans were a year ago at this time. And it's funny because the win total is the same from 2024 to 2025. And for most of the season in 2025, it looked like a better team. So then that's where the issue comes in, because Nebraska finished on such a down note and was blown out in 3 consecutive games to end the season. And just the way that it looked, it has led to a lot of negativity and just unfortunate feelings around the team. I don't think there's a whole lot more other than that. Yeah, I mean, there's some gripes about the way that Mike Eckler, the special teams coordinator, exited, but Nebraska did fine in the transfer portal. It did well in retaining the talent that was coming, that was set or scheduled to come back for this team in 2026. The coaching hires that Matt Rule has made have been largely well received, but it's just still kind of the lingering disappointment from seeing the way that the games at the end of the year went, and it's going to be hard for Nebraska to shake that feeling with whatever happens in this offseason. It'll take some strong play in September and probably into October. Now, if Nebraska starts 5-0, and even if it's games that it's favored to win, across the board, then I think what's going on right now with the negativity will be erased.
How do they go about replacing Emmett Johnson, who was such a bright spot and such a great player? Read about was like Quentin Ives, maybe among others. But what does that spot look like for them moving forward with Holgorsen?
Yeah, some questions for sure. Nebraska opted to keep it in-house and not go to the transfer portal at the running back spot, which was, I thought, an odd decision, but they're very much behind it. And Matt Rule talked about that plan of attack from even before the bowl game. And Emmett Johnson opted out of the bowl game to go get himself ready for the NFL draft or the NFL combine, which is going on right now. And he was replaced by Mekhi Nelson. It was a starter in the bowl game, a second-year player, and he had a nice start to that game against Utah, and then the entire Nebraska offense disappeared for about 2.5 quarters while Utah scored 31 consecutive points. So it's hard to put a bow on that and say that they saw their future, a good future in the run game in that performance in Las Vegas. Although Holgorsen and Rule have pointed to that and said that they thought that the backs ran the ball well in the bowl game, and they did for one series in the first quarter of that game against the Utah rush defense that ranked in the 112th coming into that game and lost 2 of its best defensive linemen. One had opted out and one was injured. So I don't put a ton of stock in that, but there's some talent at the position. It's just very much unproven. Mekhi Nelson is the leader there, coming back for his 3rd season. Isaiah Mosey was a highly rated wide receiver recruit who was committed to Oregon, and flipped to Nebraska when his dad became a part of the staff. He was a successful high school coach in Kansas City, and Mosey is one of the more talented young players on the team. He played as a true freshman. They moved him to running back. They like what he can do. He's an explosive player. We just didn't get to see it a lot last year because Emmett Johnson was everything for Nebraska, not just at the running back spot, but offensively, especially after the injury to Dylan Raiola. So they're going to go with those two. You mentioned Quentin Ives, Paul, and he's a factor there too as a short yardage guy. And they have a couple of freshmen who are also going to get a look, including a true freshman who's should still be in high school and is at least schedule wise and is at Nebraska like most freshmen do coming in the spring. So it's it's a position without any real experience, and it's a spot where Calandria is going to need some help. They can't rely on him to be their running threat in a Big Ten season, or he's going to get hurt at 6 foot, 205 pounds.
Mitch, transfer portal wise, they obviously added volume, added a lot of guys. Did they add experience, or are these maybe more hope for potential guys?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the snap counts of what Nebraska lost through the portal and what it gained through the portal, and I think every team is going to end up in the black and the positive on that. It's a significant. There's a significant add there as far as the experience that Nebraska added in comparison to what it lost through the portal. Even like the average per player amount of experience is highly weighted in favor of what's coming in. So they did get older. There weren't a bunch of home runs in the transfer portal for Nebraska. You didn't see the 5-star kind of portal ratings. You didn't see top 50 players landing at Nebraska. Now there are some analysis out there that put Calandria among the top quarterbacks to make a move in the last portal cycle. Nebraska did well on the offensive line in adding experienced potential starters. 2 from the SEC and 1 from the Big 12. They should be more athletic. They should be better in pass protection because of those 3 players and the 2 who are returning, 2 of their most athletic and just solid all around offensive linemen. At linebacker, Nebraska I think did well in the transfer portal. At wide receiver, Nebraska added Quasi Gilmer, who's a potential wide receiver 1 from UCLA, and they actually have 3 potential wide receiver 1s, 2 returning and Gilmer, so they beef things up there. But yeah, there's questions too. Probably didn't do enough on the defensive line. I mentioned the running back situation where I think Nebraska should have pursued more aggressively, pursued a running back more aggressively, and they just chose not to go that route. So we'll see. We'll see when we'll probably get some results. This spring, they're on the practice field this afternoon, practice number 4 of the spring, which is kind of odd on February 26th in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's actually a nice day up here right now. It's in the 60s, so it feels like spring. But they'll be done with spring practice early in a month at the end of March, and then it'll be back to the grind with the conditioning aspect of things. But at least they'll have, I think the thinking there. I believe the thinking there. I know the thinking there was. Get it going as soon as you can, because you have a new quarterback and you have new coordinators on the defense and on the special teams, and you're going to have a different offense and a lot of new pieces. Like I mentioned, 3 potential new starters on the offensive line. So get these guys on the field as soon as you can in the offseason, and then the expectation is that they can be more cohesive and more together for all of the weeks and months that remain up until training camp in August.
And Mitch, they're returning to a traditional spring game, correct? He tried to do it differently, but they're going back to a tradition when there's a lot of talk about spring football in general, but they're going back to the old way of things.
Yeah, I think it'll be short-lived, and that's just me saying that. I think there are trends in college football that are going to eventually take us away from these traditional spring games, but. Nebraska didn't love the results of it a year ago. They basically canceled the spring game, tried to make it a fun, like, fan-oriented day, and then in the week leading up to that, it had a change of heart and went back and decided to have a scrimmage, but it was only a scrimmage with backups, so it was somewhat disjointed and maybe ahead of its time. I think we're going to get to that point in this sport where more of the work that happens, the important work that happens in the offseason is like an NFL model, where it's in the NFL after the draft, and in the college game it'll be like after the spring semester. Maybe that's when the transfer portal will eventually happen. I don't know. We're probably a ways away from that change being made, but I think it would be best. And then have the OTAs in June serve as the most important training ground in your off season. Eventually, I think we'll see something like that. But for now, yeah, Nebraska's going back to a spring game and going to do it. Try to get as many fans as they can. I think the days of 60, 70, 80,000 people inside stadiums like the one in Lincoln for spring games are probably long gone. Nebraska sold about 10,000 tickets in the first 4 or 5 days of availability, and they're cheap. They're $5 for general admission, $10 to sit in the nice club seats. You never know; it might be really cold on March 28th. So getting a club seat wouldn't be a bad idea, and they're cheap, way cheaper than you can get them for in the fall. And you're not. I don't think you're going to. I would expect maybe 30, 40,000 people at the spring game, which is still nice, but it's like half of what Nebraska got just a few years ago for this event.
My last thing, and this is dead serious. Mat Rule teams are normally very physical, and they're normally a very good football IQ level. And I don't see that, and I haven't seen that. I know the defense a couple of years ago, they were pretty damn good. They were stingy.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year they were a sift, but I just haven't seen that, and that's normally something he turns quickly wherever he's been at Temple or Baylor. And I think that's kind of a disappointment. Has any of that been brought up at all?
Yeah, I think just about everything's been brought up. I do think that like the changes in the sport and the influence of the transfer portal and how important it is to building a roster and maintaining a roster. It's been discussed. It's been analyzed. I think it's a reason for what you're talking about there. It's harder to have the kind of continuity and togetherness that he enjoyed at Temple and at Baylor, and being able to start young with those rosters. You look at true freshman quarterbacks or freshman quarterbacks in both of those cases who they were able to train and then get experience pretty quick because those quarterbacks grew in the system and the players grew around them, and they didn't have to worry about half the roster transferring out in every single season. So Nebraska kind of tried to take that route and recruited a freshman quarterback to start after Rule's first year, and here you are 2 years later in the same place that just about everybody is who recruited a quarterback 2 years ago. He's no longer on your roster. So unless you're Texas. But just about everybody else, you see your quarterbacks who, whether they're highly ranked or not, they end up going in the portal, and you find somebody who's been at another school, and for some teams it works and some it doesn't. So it's just a different way of roster building. It's a different way of team construction, and I don't think they've mastered that, but they're tinkering with it and trying different things and living in this whole new world like everybody else in this sport.
Thank you, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you. Hey, by the way, send me whatever microphone you're using because it sounds fantastic.
All right. It's a cheap one off Amazon, but I'll be happy to give you the details.
It sounds great. The bass, the level, the clear
awesome.
Clarity.
Great to hear.
Thank you, buddy. Mitch Sherman with us, theathletic.com. 3 schools, BYU, Clemson, and Nebraska kicking off literally spring football earlier than anyone else around the country. Now,
12-win season incoming.
Big
Ten runner-up at worst.
This is the kind of thing that
one playoff win at least.
If they go 7, stop. They have
host
a stretch.
a playoff
they
game.
They
playoff.
play Indiana,
they win there.
Oregon, Washington, and stop.
If Indiana can do it, Nebraska can.
They have no explosive plays.
No, that is true, and that's the whole point of the offseason of well, if Indiana can do it, and you can't create the amount of alumni they have, but Nebraska's comparable.
You can't
with the support.
Yeah, you can't just make Curt Cignetti, but if you have a coach that you like and you get in lockstep all together, you can do it. Like what Curt Cignetti proves is hey, I'm really good at this. If you guys just if we're in line, then we're going to be fine.
I do think though. That's absolutely correct, that the whole alignment thing, a lot of people point that out. But I also think Curt Cignetti is just a better head coach than a lot of other dudes.
Yes.
He's just a way better head coach.
But you also, I think the leaders have to realize, oh shit, this guy's good.
No, yeah. Like there's, but you can have all that alignment and you can better yourself. But I do think there's a gap that you can't account for by, well, you can, I guess, technically. But, yeah, that Cignetti was, like, the difference maker. And then Mendoza and so on and so forth. But, yeah, I mean, good to get some football talk going, even if it's going to be kind of brief for about a month or so. And, yeah, I just better than not having it. That's for damn sure. And like Mitch, I think it'll be interesting to see in about 5 years what it actually does still look like. If it's completely unrecognizable and more like NFL OTAs and whatnot. Or if it's still people still throwing spring games with 70,000 people, but you didn't hear much enthusiasm in his voice towards the spring game. I know Baylor just announced today they're not having a spring game. They're doing like the glorified open practice with fan events, and a lot of teams will do that as well. But, yeah, it's like I was talking about with signing day a little while ago. It's not quite what it was. And I kind of missed that, but still good to have something rather than nothing.
You ready for the wheel, Smokey?
Yeah, one quick note. Last night, Rick Pitino and St. John's were embarrassed by UConn 72-40. I want you to understand, they were down 41 to whatever at halftime. UConn could have not shot, not scored, and won the game 41-40 because St. John's hit 2 shots in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, St. John's pretty good, right? So that's a shocker there. But Patino's done a good job. I mean, see, what's her name? Nikki Lorenzo. Is that Lattarullo?
Lattarullo.
Yeah, Nikki Lattarullo, who's up there in New York covering St. John's. I see him occasionally come across my page she's got an interview with him or something. And so it seems like he's having fun up there, doing a good job. But that was not the case last night, obviously.
No.
Wow.
All right, here we go.
All right, the wheel.
God, that's like one of those when you go get your eyes checked. What happened to it?
Oop. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, what do we got? What's a good book you've read in the last 5 years? Oh,
I gotta look it up because it is a great book though.
You're really painting me in a corner, Andrew. I read a lot of good books. I've read a lot of them.
Yeah, I actually don't have a good one because I haven't been in a big reader mode for a while now, and I'm trying to get back into that. So I don't have like the 20 books that I've read for the last 2 years. I've got like no books. But you know what? I reread like Treasure Island one random month, and I wish I had it. I kind of like I enjoyed it, but I was also like I just remembered so much more fondly when I was a kid, right? But it was kind of cool to reread that. And that's an all-time like favorite type of book. That like I loved like that and Swiss Family Robinson, sort of the deserted types of tales. So yeah, I reread Treasure Island recently and I enjoyed it. In the process of finishing a book called West of Sunset that I'm enjoying. It's more of like old Hollywood and it's fiction, but I'm not quite done yet.
I don't have the patience to read many books, but I did read the Rocco Mediate book. It's been out a while when he lost to Tiger in the U.S. Open, and it's called Are You Kidding Me? And he just goes over that entire weekend when he had him dead to rights, and he even with a broken leg and a torn ACL, he somehow won the tournament. It's a great book.
I will say this. If you're a history buff and a World War II buff, it's hard for me to narrow down the history books I've read. Garrett gave me one that was really good as well. He just left. I wish he was here for this topic. But there's one called In the Garden of Beasts. And In the Garden of Beasts takes place the way that he writes it is it reads a little bit like a fiction book as the way it goes, but it's historical. It's not fiction, it's true. And it's about the last ambassador from the U.S. to Nazi Germany before the U.S.'s involvement in World War II. And everything that goes on around. His daughter was like kind of a party girl and wound up having an affair with a Russian spy. And then like he was telling her like, hey, look, there's a lot of stuff going on here that you may not realize. Like all these parties and everything that they're having is all great, but there's some really bad stuff going on behind the scenes. And his immediate, like when he got to Germany, noticing of all these things that were so messed up. And it's such a great read. So it's called In the Garden of Beasts.
We should promote the book. You and I did an interview that, no, I'm not. I'm just joking with you. Ah, come on, look at me. Smile.
I'm not. I don't find that funny.
I do.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Trivia. Baseball is famously called America's pastime, but during which pivotal moment in U.S. history did the sport gain national prominence?
Well, it was invented around the Civil War, so the Revolutionary War is out. I would say during the Great Depression, because World War I, it was still kind of on the upswing. I'm going to say the Great Depression. Because that would be Babe Ruth.
You guys
and
are
all
more
that.
history buffs
That would
than
be
I am.
Babe Ruth's time. The 27 Yankees is right before then. So, yeah, the 30s, like the 33 All-Star game, all that. I'm going to say the Great Depression. This is kind of a broad question, but I'm going to say the Great Depression.
I think it's a little bit earlier than that.
So maybe World War I? Because it's not the Civil War, because that's kind of when it was invented, right around then.
When was DiMaggio?
I think that might have been, though, when it gained national prominence. So because it's post-Civil War, all the fallout, here's this game, it's kind of, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, I'm fine defaulting to Great Depression. I kind of think it's a bit earlier. I think it's more like Civil War, but
okay, you know what? I'm going to go with you, Craig.
Oh, God, I hope I'm right then, because I don't want to feel like an ass here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Damn.
Okay.
You know, you guys know I didn't put any effort into that answer.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just moved on along, but yeah.
Go ahead, Craig.
All right. Baseball became a national ritual during the Civil War as soldiers played to pass the time, spreading the rules across the country upon their return. Known for lacking a clock and emphasizing fair play, it mirrored American values and acted as a cultural unifier for a divided nation. America's game. Its daily schedule and radio presence made it a shared ritual, cementing a generational tradition that remains as American as apple pie. So, cool.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I thought at some point in time I read something that made me believe that was a bit earlier than you thought originally, but here we go. All right, on February 26, 1935, an era officially ended when an iconic figure in baseball history was released after 15 seasons and 659 home runs with his legendary club. Which player was it? Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Ty Cobb, or Babe Ruth?
Well, this is obvious because none of the other three had that many home runs.
Ruth had 714.
And 659 of them came with the Yankees. Some came with the Red Sox and a little bit with the Boston Braves. This is Babe Ruth, who just a couple years earlier was still one of the best players in the game. But when you take care of yourself like Babe Ruth did, it can turn in a hurry.
Yeah, ask Mickey Mantle, ask all sorts of guys from yesteryear. And now that's the one thing about athletes nowadays. Not all of them, but a lot of them take way better care of themselves. I mean, granted, it's not saying a lot when dudes were smoking cigarettes in the dugout not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard to get better at your health, but still, it's a night and day.
Mantle's knees went out on him, but he was an absolute every night out.
He loved to drink.
Yeah.
Great steakhouse in OKC though.
Yeah.
Great steakhouse.
So
God, I missed that place.
Yeah, retired in 1935 as well.
It'd be worth a trip to go through Oklahoma City to have dinner there. All right. What part of March Madness are you most hyped for? Bracket busting upsets, buzzer beaters, and drama, which is kind of the same thing. Cinderella story runs, and winning the office pool and winning some money.
Well, 40% people want the upsets. So,
the Thursday, Friday.
I'm surprised the winning the office pool didn't get higher. But maybe people have been just broken down. Like, it is the hardest thing it's hard. Like, a March Madness pool is harder than fantasy football. It's harder than anything else. Like, you can luck your way into fantasy football a little bit more. The office pool in March Madness it's a bear. That's tough.
Yeah. I did as well as I've ever done the last 2 years, which is shocking because I usually am dead by Friday afternoon. But okay, bracket busting upsets.
Yeah, I just like, I don't know. These are all sort of similar, but they're different.
The first three they're all tied in.
They're in the same vein, but they are different. So I mean, I guess I just go with the bracket, but I go buzzer beaters and drama. Buzzer beaters and drama because that kind of encapsulates everything.
It's not necessarily upset. Sometimes it's
just a great game.
I have to hit a buzzer beater to beat this team to stop this team.
It could be Gonzaga beating like Arizona or something like that in the I guess Elite Eight or so. Okay. Yeah, this is about where they're going to build the new stadium.
35% of people think they should be in Hammond, Indiana.
I think we might have a big Hoosiers audience. We might have a big Hoosiers audience based on this response.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
I don't think these are Chicago people voting for Hammond, Indiana,
No,
Paul.
no.
So, yeah, 49% is still staying Chicago. I mean, that's nearly half of the votes. 35 for Hammond, and then 16 Arlington Heights.
The top contender is Hammond. The alternative is Arlington Heights.
But they're not staying in Chicago.
And, of course, right now, Soldier Field is where they are.
That's over. Look, the fans of the Chicago sports teams are the best sports fans, top to bottom, number one sports city in the country. And to have Kevin Warren pissing their Cheerios by moving the team to Hammond, Indiana, because he made a backroom deal with that state government while dragging look, and I'm not backing up the state government of Illinois. They've had their own problems historically, but this is absolutely an absolute slap in the face to the proud sports fans of the best sports city, top to bottom in America.
This is
Chicago IL.
This has got momentum, no doubt about it.
I mean, we already could say this about Cleveland's moving out. Yeah, I mean, if we lose like Chicago sports out of Chicago, we've completely jumped the shark on this entire thing.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and this is not the fan. Like, you can't blame this on the fans.
It's like, what's next? The Yankees are going to play in New Jersey.
Well, the Giants and Jets do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that's what's next. Is yeah. What are we going to put the Yankees in like Trenton because that's got better tax breaks?
The Cowboys are not in Dallas. But this we're talking about. It's still Dallas.
But this is
Worth.
Chicago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
The Chicago Bears.
I love Soldier Field. Yeah, I know. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for all of the bells and whistles. And Brandon Rowe, Logan Bagessi, Garrett Ross, and much more. Thank you. In fact, we had a new viewer that was kind of hanging around with us today, Bob Swanger, big Penn State fan, was in the chat today. I hope that you all handled him very well and were nice. Paul Catalina, thank you. Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Tomorrow, I think we have a couple of NCAA basketball analysts that will join the show and more. Good night, 365 Sports.